All right, this meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the following manner. The annual notice was forwarded to the Asbury Park Press and posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board. All notices are on file with the Planning Board Secretary. Fire exits are located on the east and west sides of the council chambers, as well as the rear of the building. I would ask anybody with a cell phone or other device to kindly put it in silent mode for the duration of this meeting. This meeting is being recorded by APTV, just as a reminder, so behave. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is Monday, September 23, 2019. Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton.
Here.
Mayor John Moore. Jim Henry.
Here.
Michael Manzella.
Here.
Jennifer Souter.
Here.
Trudy Seifert.
Here.
Alexis Taylor.
Here.
Rick Lambert.
Here.
Barbara Krizak.
here.
Thank you.
I'd just like to bring up that we'll be having, there are two discussion items that I would like to bring up to the top of the agenda. Has to do with the 2020 Planning Board meeting schedule. Does anybody in the Planning Board have any concerns about the schedule?
I have one question.
Sure.
I think it was September,
Okay,
and we're meeting 1 week apart,
yes.
and that's okay?
Right, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that we have enough meetings and backfeed them at the end of the year, because a lot of times people would like to have them. If we don't need them, we'll cancel them. So right now we're trying for at least 2 a month.
Okay, I'm just wondering why it wasn't either 2 weeks or
I'm
3
sure
weeks
that there's a
apart.
reason. Right now I can't remember.
September 7th is Labor Day.
Oh, right.
It's the first Monday. So we only have
Thank you, Irena.
All right, anybody else have any concerns, any questions?
No.
No? Okay.
And I just wanted to bring up that Hanukkah is December 11th through December 18th. If that is an issue for anyone, we will have a meeting on December 14th.
That's not our only meeting in December, is it?
No, we have two, December 7th
Okay.
and December 14th.
So that's good if there's not something on the agenda.
We'll try to keep that light.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Do we need to do something besides what we just did to approve this?
No, you're not going to adopt it until
No, we're
January.
not going to talk, until January. This is just for the calendar.
Okay. All right, so then you'll provide that to Sonia, and we'll do our what we needed to do.
Thank you.
Okay, there's one other item that was brought up that we received a letter from the Surfrider Foundation and the Wesley Lake Commission requesting that the planning board, actually it was a nicely written letter having to do with cigarette canisters. They kind of gave us, if anybody hasn't read it, it's really very interesting information. The amount of cigarette butts that are being collected by various people that go and do cleanups, whether it be in the parks or whether it be on the beaches. And what they're asking of us to do is that we make it a condition for various developers for commercial and multifamily projects to install cigarette butt receptacles outside of the entryways of the buildings. And they believe that this will reduce the number of butts that end up in the ground and inevitably in our oceans. If this is just a request and a suggestion, so I think that potentially that just like what we do with other things, that we always bring things up that may not be formally written up, whether it be bike racks, whether it be trash receptacles, whether it be stormwater management, whatever, that perhaps we want to consider this. If it's appropriate for the site.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to bring it up.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is the approval of the minutes. Arena?
Okay, approval of minutes of August 12th, 2019.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Me too. I wasn't here.
That was for the August 12th.
That's right, yes. Jim Henry.
Right.
Thank you.
And then for September 9th?
And for September 9th, I believe, Trudy, you weren't here?
No.
Right? Okay. Minutes of September 9th?
Motion to approve.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Also abstain.
Yeah, Jim was recused. Okay. Now, then, next, on to the heart of the meeting here. We have the 405 Sewell Avenue, block 3202, lot 9, having to do with scattered site redevelopment. Michelle?
Well, before that, I'll give the board what the criteria is and what our task is this evening.
Okay,
Just to-
go for it.
Title 48:12A-7E, prior to the adoption of a redevelopment plan or revision or amendment, which this is, thereto the planning board shall transmit to the governing body within 45 days after referral a report containing its recommendations concerning the redevelopment plan or the amendments. The report shall include an identification of any provisions in the proposed redevelopment plan or amendments which are inconsistent with the master plan and recommendations concerning these inconsistencies and any other matters as the board deems appropriate. That's your task. It's a review, it's a legislative type hearing, and not necessarily an application type hearing. If you're going to take public comment, everyone that does comment should be in the room.
Kiddo? All right, Michelle?
Do you swear affirm the testimony given during these proceedings to be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your affiliation, your name, and your affiliation with the city.
Michelle Alonso, Director of Planning and Redevelopment for the City of Asbury Park. I'm also a licensed professional planner.
Thank you.
Good evening, planning board members and members of the public. Tonight, I'm here to present to you an amendment to the scattered site redevelopment plan. As was stated, this is primarily for 405 Sewell Avenue, but this is to remove it out of the scattered site redevelopment plan. We begin with the scattered site redevelopment plan is one of the oldest redevelopment plans that we have in the city. Its original intent was for the city to acquire properties by eminent domain, issue an RFP, and designate developers to redevelop these properties. This never occurred. We're left with individual spot zones of lots that if you look at our zoning map, you see them all over little bright splotches here and there. But one of the reasons I'm here to do an amendment is the redevelopment plan is very prescriptive. It basically says that you could rehab the property on site or conform with construction of the base zoning. Now for this site, which is block 3202 lot 9, it says that the house that used to be there could be rehabbed. The house was torn down a long time ago, or a one family can be built. Now the property owner for this property purchased this lot and the apartment building next door to it. And his intent was to make this accessory parking for the apartment building. Under the scattered site redevelopment plan, he cannot do so because the plan does not permit this lot to be accessory parking for principal use. So the solution tonight is to remove this lot from the plan, and it would revert back to the base zoning, which the apartment building is in. He'll merge the two lots and build he would come back to this board with the design of the new parking lot with site plan approval and proceed to have an accessory parking lot for the apartment building. So the sheets that you have before you tonight are all the sheets that need to be amended in the redevelopment plan to create this. Basically, in the scattered site redevelopment plan, each individual property has its own sheet. I'm proposing to remove the sheet for this property for 405 Sewell Avenue out of the plan. I'm also proposing for the map called Redevelopment and Beautification Project, City of Asbury Park, to remove it from the map, thus removing it out of the plan. It would be removed from the map. There would no longer be a little red rectangle in the map zoning districts. And finally, it would be removed from this other map in the plan, historic districts, which again shows all the scattered site parcels. So this parcel would be removed. And that is basically it in a nutshell what this proposal is tonight. Does anyone have any questions?
Is this, you said there's an apartment building
Adjacent to it?
adjacent to it? And that exists and that remains?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you distinguish between what scattered site parcels Phase 1 and Phase 1A are?
Yeah, there was two done. This one is part of phase, I'm sorry.
1A, I
1A.
think. It's a lighter.
So there was phase 1 that was done,
Okay.
and then a second plan, a phase 1A was done as well. I believe an RFP had gone out for phase 1, but the previous administrations took no action on designating a developer.
Okay. And then on the, just on the City of Asbury Park zoning districts, it doesn't appear to be a red parcel. Not that that matters, because you're removing it, but I just didn't see it on there.
Well, the map is a little pixelated.
Yeah. I was squinting. It didn't become clear when I squinted.
You were right. I don't
Yeah.
see it either, but I think.
But that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, you propose to remove it from the other two maps, which is fine.
Right.
It just doesn't exist on this one.
Basically, I'm, taking out any reference to it in the plan.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, even though it's in the PO zone, the only thing that they could potentially build on there is a one-family home. Like you can't do a professional office with something above.
No, because it's too small.
It's too small of a lot, yeah. Okay.
I just have a procedural question, a process question. So if this happens in others, the master plan is amended digitally, like how is it amended? You take it out, but then is it reissued? Or it's just,
Oh, it goes to council, so it's an ordinance. So after your recommendation tonight, it goes to council for adoption. And we can do one of two things in this amendment. We actually can revise these maps, make clean new maps, and remove the page. And then it's the new versions put on the website and kept in our office and the city clerk's office as of record.
Just for clarification, if we adopt this, they still have to come back to the board with the design.
Correct, for site plan review.
So not directly related to this actual amendment, but just the overall scattered site development, because we're talking about that. So in your opinion, it's just because of the city hasn't acted on it, there's no reason that this parcel otherwise would be eligible for a scattered site development?
I mean, it's the city has no intention to go and acquire
Right.
private properties.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
So a scattered site redevelopment plan really doesn't apply if it's not the policy of the administration anyway.
The only benefit that there is, if someone owns one of these lots, they can get a long-term tax abatement, but or we can enter into a redeveloper's agreement. But saying that, as you can see on the map, looking at the size of these lots,
Right.
none of them really make financial sense for anyone to apply
Or
for.
doing multifamily, it doesn't make any sense.
Right, long-term tax abatement.
Okay.
Well, it's permitted.
It worked in Yonkers. They did it there. That's just, it probably doesn't work well there.
Well, the biggest thing here, like I said, this administration does not intend to use eminent domain.
Right. Understood. Okay, that was more just a general question.
Planning board have any other questions? Our professionals have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Concerns?
Consistent with the master plan?
Yes, and master plan actually, I believe, talks about the removal of this redevelopment plan because of it. This is actually the second amendment. that this board is entertaining, and you entertained one for the Boys and Girls Club to build a parking lot.
What,
The
what
master
barriers are there to removing the overall plan?
Just work.
That's a fair barrier.
Yeah, just a lot of staff time.
You got it. Okay.
The master plan didn't necessarily say tear it apart or get rid of it.
Right.
It said
It just hasn't been
re-examine it,
effective.
reevaluate it, and see whether or not it makes sense or not. And tonight,
Right.
there's a
Yeah.
determination that this particular parcel does not make sense.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so in terms of procedure, where do we go now, Jack?
If you want comments, you can have them. It's up to you.
Sure.
If not, proceed to a vote.
Any public comment?
I have an agenda though.
Right there. Sorry?
Michelle, swear, witness.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give during these proceedings will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Ernest McNally.
Thank you.
So,
Please use the mic. Speak into the mic.
I think that's for all of us too, isn't it? I can't hear a word that you're saying up there, so thank you for telling me to use the mic.
Please speak into the
I
mic.
get it. Ms. Alonso, I guess this property is, since I'm just looking at the minutes now, is at what location?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
The location.
What property location are we talking?
We're talking about 405 Sewell Avenue.
What?
405 Sewell Avenue.
Where is that, near Heck? No? I'm sorry.
That is, it's,
It's between Heck and Grand.
thank you, Mike.
Between
You're
Heck
welcome.
and Graham?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so I just had a question. You were mentioning about tax, either abatements or?
No.
No? What were you?
No,
The reference to tax was what?
my reference were, what are the benefits of being in the scattered site redevelopment plan?
Can't hear you.
Well, tonight's proposal is to remove this property from the scattered site redevelopment plan.
So there's a benefit to be in the scattered site plan. We are removing this from the scattered site plan. So there is no tax benefit.
Okay, but the reference is to scatter site. Is that like spot zone or, just if you bring me up to snuff? City planner?
Correct.
Right,
So this map you see here,
okay.
that's the historic district type map, but this, you see all the red, they are in this redevelopment plan. So in a redevelopment plan area, you are permitted to spot zone. So all the red, they fall under this redevelopment plan.
And this property falls under spot zone. I think you made reference to scatter zone. Is that what we use in Asbury, scatter zone?
Correct.
No, this-
Same as spot zone?
No, this
No.
is,
No,
the name of
different.
this redevelopment plan is the scattered site redevelopment plan. Because it's scattered site, and this is a tool used by many municipalities. The difference is that this city did not implement this redevelopment plan in the way thought of, because we are not in the business of eminent domaining private property to give to a developer.
Do you have a comment, a question?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
just trying to make sure I heard correctly.
Okay.
So we're talking about a property that is asking to do what, Ms.
Be
Alonso?
removed out of the plan.
I'm sorry?
To be removed out of the plan and go to the base zoning, which is the PO district.
Okay, so now we're getting, so the option, the request is to come out of spot zone,
It's not spot
Scattered
zone.
site.
Scattered site,
scattered, okay?
right? It's
Pretty
to
similar.
Get out of the
Pretty-
scattered site and go into the normal zoning, which is a PO zone. So they want to
Nor-
get back to where everybody else is in that area.
Okay, which puts that property in what? The use that they're requesting to be removed from one to go into another is what, for residential, commercial?
It's to be a parking lot.
To be a parking lot?
To supplement the parking for an apartment building that's adjacent
Yes.
to the property.
Although, I mean, the application is not in front of the board tonight, so
Right.
really, use is less important than just that we're removing it from its current scattered site designation.
Okay, so then I'll ask what you're saying or comment, that what you're saying is this is a step-by-step process. The first would be to get it in the zone that would be favorable to the applicant. And then
It's
the
just the
applicant
base
comes back and says,
underlying zoning. It's not,
Yeah, it's not more favorable to the applicant, it's just going back to the base
it's what
zone.
everyone else is subject to.
huh. Do we know when it was taken out of what everyone else has, put into the spot, and then now back out of the spot? What?
2003 was when this plan was created.
I think that's about the time the master plan was signed, isn't it?
No, we have
No,
a
we
new
have-
master plan.
What?
We have a master plan that was updated last year.
December, it was passed to December 2017.
Oh, for this, but the 2002-3 plan is not on top of that.
No,
This
it's on
is-
actually, it's on the bottom of it.
It's the bottom. of-
Everything else comes on top of it.
And what put it on the bottom? The fact that it became spot zone or
No.
scatter zone?
No. Part of the master plan discussion, the redevelopment, I'm sorry, not the redevelopment, the master plan discussion that we had in 2017 had us take a look at scattered zones and to just review them. Because we had to review a lot of different things as part of the master plan reevaluation. This was one of them. So where we see this, it makes sense to take this out of the scattered zone.
I moved here in August of 2007. I live on Deal Lake Drive. I'm not aware of any of this. I mean, I don't get notices. I can't say I live within 200 feet, but all the stuff that's going on, sometimes I find out it is closer than I thought, or there's a parking lot near my building. And most people in the public, of the 15,000 people that live here, they have no idea what's going on.
They should come to these meetings.
What?
They should come to these meetings, come to the council meetings, read the paper.
Mhm.
There's
You have a-
plenty of documentation
Do you have
out there
any-
for people.
Do you have any idea why they don't come to the meetings?
Do you have a question about this
No, I
application?
thought this is comment section.
About the application.
About this application?
Oh, I get it. Okay,
About this.
well, I'm saying, I'm the only public here that I see.
Actually, I don't think so, but go ahead.
I don't enjoy that every week, I must tell you, because, I get it from everybody.
What is your
like-
comment?
So my comment is, it seems like you're going to approve this, but really it's for something else. I'm going to guess it's like when you do other planning meetings where you want to do a development one place, and someone has a parking lot somewhere else. So somehow you want to try and join them in the fact to maybe allow someone who has no parking to all of a sudden get an approval to build 60 apartments with no parking, but now we throw in what size is this lot? I'm sorry?
45 by 100.
45 by
It's
100.
450 square feet?
Please, excuse me for 1 second. Anybody that's going to comment has to be under oath.
Has to be what?
Not under
So-
oath. No, it's not directed at you. It's directed at him.
Oh,
So the very few parking spaces can fit on this lot. This is for a parking lot.
I understand. So,
But
I
we
think
can only
Mr. Kara
consider, the
said
board can
45
only
by
consider
40.
the application that's in front of it.
I'm sorry?
We don't know what its future use is. We only have what's in front of us. So we're not considering some future use. We're
You're
not
not.
considering that. It's just not the consideration of the board tonight.
Okay, so then let me ask you a question. Are you aware that I've come to meetings here in the past?
You're correct.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Come to meetings here in the past where this methodology has been used, where you kind of title vacant lots, or somebody's trying to build something on a lot and build a lot of apartments with no parking, and then someone has 3 lots adjoined, and they say, well, let's separate one and let's go back and offer them 2 with 10 parking spaces, but we need 60 parking spaces. So, well, my comment is, and it could be a question or a comment, why is it that this just keeps happening? I'm going to say, in the grander plan for this conversion, that this is probably tied to help someone who's building maybe multiple units or something where they don't have parking. So now, if you get this approved, then come back and say, well, now we want to put 12 apartments, we don't have any parking, but we do have this lot.
I
It's either-
would just suggest, just because you're making a general comment rather than the application that we're considering, that you come back when there is site plan review of that site, because that's really the only time that we can entertain questions about the particular use of the site.
Oh, not now.
No,
just
it's
about
not
this,
in our
just about the
purview right
purpose
now.
of tonight.
This is really procedural because
Right.
it's basically taking this site out of the redevelopment plan and returning it to the underlying zoning. So there's not like a application.
But we welcome the comments when we do have site plan
No,
review.
no,
then we
but
have
my
to have
point
it.
is, we see this, I mean, I come here a lot, and I see it over and over. It's a pattern. It's presented to the public like it's just this one thing, and it's really not tied to another goal.
Okay, you've already said that once. What else? What else you got?
What else
You've
do I
already
have?
said that once.
Okay. What?
Okay, we have to move this along. We have 3 applications today.
Oh, really?
Let's go.
Okay.
What else you got?
Well, I could go on, but I won't. How's that?
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? Anybody else from the public?
Move to close public comment.
Okay,
Second.
okay.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve?
Not an approval, it's
Nothing?
actually what your recommendations are back to council.
Okay, our recommendation is to move forward.
Motion to move this forward and
Yes.
recommend removal of this site from the scattered site redevelopment plan.
Second.
Jim Henry, second. Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore is not here. Jim Henry?
Yes.
Michael Manzella?
Yes.
Jennifer Sauter?
Yes.
Trudy Seifert?
Yes.
Alexis Taylor?
Yes.
Rick Lambert?
Yes.
Barbara Krizak?
Yes. Okay, well, let's go to the waterfront redevelopment area. The amendments?
Same introduction I gave you before applies to this one as well.
Okay. Good evening.
Actually sworn, so that-
Oh, okay.
Do you swear or affirm that testimony you give during this proceeding will be the truth and whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and affiliation with the city.
Michelle Alonso, Director of Planning and Redevelopment for the City of Asbury Park. I'm also a licensed professional planner.
Thank you.
Michelle, if I may, both Michelles, let's get the staff sworn in, so in case there's any comments or questions.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that testimony you give during this proceeding will be the truth and whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your names and your affiliation with the city.
Michael Sullivan, Clark Case Hanson, Board Planner. Jason Fisher, Board Engineer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so, again, planning board members, members of the public, this is a more lengthy presentation. This is for a few different amendments to the waterfront redevelopment plan area. Some of them have to do with the boardwalk to be reconstructed. Some of the amendments have to do with future projects that are anticipated in the waterfront redevelopment area. I'm going to go through this one line by line, page by page. You should have in your packet the amendments with with the language that's proposed to be removed in red stripe through, and the new language in blue underline. The first item is to revise the language for the boardwalk in section 2.3, planning objectives within the prime renewal area. The new language is for the boardwalk to be reconstructed in the configuration that the old boardwalk that was torn up was in, and to permit the meandering, or now we're using the word curvilinear path beyond where the original boardwalk began to what is known as the Fisherman's Parking Lot. And on your page, you can see a drawing to be inserted that shows the alignment of the boardwalk. And that's to be entered into the redevelopment plan. The next section, 3.2,
Is there a
opens.
way, sorry, is there a way just to pull up that diagram?
We don't have that.
I don't have it. Good.
I don't have it.
Wait, you guys don't have this exhibit?
We do have the,
Resolution.
If there's a way to pull it up on the screen, we can look at it.
I don't remember if it's. Yes.
No.
Okay.
It's private.
We won't look.
That would have been very helpful. There's a bunch of sections that need to be revised. If we change these, compared to the resolution, when you reduce the number of stories, then you need to reduce the number of units proportionally. Yeah. But if you can double it, if you go from 8 to 4, you can double the density.
Can you do that?
That needs to be changed.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, if we need it.
I never thought to bring the plan. Yeah.
Great.
okay,
Okay,
here we
great.
go.
I apologize that's not in your packet. So what I just, there's the drawing I had spoken about and the language that I began to talk about, but then I started to talk about 3.2. Bring it down a little. 3.2, okay. So this is language, additional language in the section of the waterfront plan that talks about open space recreation community facilities. It's added language, basically that the master developer will be doing the public access point aligned with the sidewalk to the north of block 4303, strikes the language about the curvilinear path, puts in a larger description about the boardwalk extension, that it can include but not be limited to new restroom facilities, beach access and bicycle parking. And then there's the language about the new curvilinear path and where it will be constructed per the diagram below. And then the additional language about the proposed jetty stone that's is part of the final design for the fisherman's parking lot.
I have a question.
Sure.
So in the diagram, the boardwalk is the same width. Oh, I see. Never mind. I thought it was the same with the entire thing, but it's going back to this decreased size, original.
It's going back to the original.
Where's the proposed jetty stone?
I believe the proposed jetty stone is, it's up against the proposed parking lot. It's part of rainwater mitigation, not rain, stormwater mitigation. And Mike's pointing it out.
It's like the edges.
Okay. Okay. And that's, And that's best practices in terms of stormwater mitigation to use jetty stone?
Yes, this was one of the, when we had the charrette, this was one of the proposals
Right.
that we had exhibited. And this has also been worked on extensively by T&M Engineering.
And they're proposing it because of its stormwater mitigation,
Yes.
best management
Yes.
practices? Okay.
Okay, so let's go on to the next page. So this section, so basically the first part talked about it, I read it down.
No.
Right, this blue language here. The first portion that I spoke about had to do with the boardwalk. This part has to do with parking. This is an amendment in the prime renewal area, basically the bulk of the redevelopment plan area, to permit off-site parking. So this basically allows a developer to not do the required parking on site, but has the option to do a long-term permanent lease in future parking structures. There's also language in there, if we get a development immediately before a parking structure is constructed, that in the interim, that surface spaces could be leased as well for the development. This gives some flexibility in the redevelopment area for developers, especially post-scattered site, our last redevelopment amendment. So this is if someone has a existing building that they would like to redevelop and the regulations kick in for redevelopment, they could basically put the parking off-site that would be required for that redevelopment.
Is there any restriction as to how far this parking has to be?
Yes. It says 600 feet of the project,
Okay.
which is considered a reasonable walking distance. Now, the way this is worded, it's basically at the discretion of the master developer and the municipal council whether it would be a case-by-case project, whether a project would be permitted to lease out its parking requirement. And again, those terms would be in the redeveloper's agreement.
Michelle, I thought there was a limit of how far it could be from the building at 600 feet.
It's 600 feet.
So are you basically saying that the master developer determines whether or not someone who owns a lot can have parking off of that lot at a different location?
Well, in terms of currently, everyone in the redevelopment area has to be a subsequent redeveloper of the city and the master developer.
Is that correct?
Yes.
How about the guy who owns the lot? He has to become a
subsequent redeveloper, yes. And
What's the process by which you become a subsequent?
Well, it's currently,
redeveloper?
it's been a year. You have your first application tonight of the first entity going through this process. You make an application to the master developer. The master developer has a first review and gives a preliminary approval. Then an application is made to the TRC. TRC reviews it. Presentations made to municipal council. Then we negotiate a subsequent redevelopers agreement between the subsequent redeveloper, the city, and the master developer. That's voted upon by council. Then council refers the application to the planning board for site plan approval. Then, if so entertained, the subsequent developer is eligible to apply for a long-term tax abatement, and the subsequent developer then is subject to special assessment fees for being in the waterfront redevelopment area. And that goes to council as well.
So just to clarify, it sounds like the actual parking goes into the redevelopment agreement, which is negotiated between the city and the master developer, and the
Subsequent
subsequent
redeveloper.
which is weird. Okay. And then But, so that parking agreement is not the consideration of the board. It's just the site plan review that's the consideration of the board. So it may be decided upon before it ever gets to the board.
It may be decided before it comes to the board, but it would be before the TRC, before the subsequent redevelopers agreement is negotiated, which has,
But the TRC, just to be clear, so if,
TRC has no authority.
right, so
Right.
if it went before city council, then it would be the subject of public comment,
yes,
and that's part of it.
yes.
But the TRC wouldn't be the subject of public comment.
Well, the TRC lately has been taking public comment.
If anybody
Okay.
would like, if the
Oh,
public
okay.
would like to
Okay.
come, we,
I just know how sensitive parking is, and so
Mm-hmm.
I think if we remove the ability for the public to comment on parking, it would be problematic. So what I'm understanding from you is that as part of the master, or the redevelopment agreement, it would go both in front of the council and TRC, and the public would have the opportunity to comment at both of those
Yes.
junctures.
Well, the public would also have the opportunity to comment at the planning board meeting.
But it's not our consideration.
Correct, but the comment could be heard at least.
Okay.
How does the board going to approach a site plan application and the parking requirement for the project?
That the subsequent redeveloper would have to just demonstrate that they are either in negotiation or have a lease in the works, and then the condition of approval would of course be that lease.
So,
But we can't reject an application based on.
no, but it could be a, but it could be a condition.
of approval. So
Could be a
we-
condition of approval.
Okay.
Let's
Play it out.
Let's play this out.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody comes in, they need 50 spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do we do? If they show us a plan that says 40 spaces, do we grant them a variance?
No, well, they would, no, yeah, then that's a different method than this.
Yeah, because this isn't getting them out of a parking requirement, it's just allowing them to put the parking requirement elsewhere.
Okay, but how do we address that as part of our site plan review?
They'll be, before it hits this board, it would be memorialized in an adopted subsequent redevelopers agreement by
Okay.
council.
So that predates the application.
Yes.
So we
for the
couldn't
board.
really make a condition.
No,
if
well,
it's-
we'd already have the agreement that says that what the parking is
They've
going
agreed to
be.
it. Yeah.
Right, you can make a condition because at the end of your process is the gateway to construction permits, that part of the condition is they have to provide the signed lease.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But as it comes before the board, there would already be a
Negotiated.
redevelopers agreement.
Right,
Covering, let's say, this parking deficiency, or the parking issue.
right.
We have an obligation to address the parking requirement. So when we comes in, it says that they have 40 spaces on site. The other 10 are going to be pursuant to this agreement with another property owner, and it's going to be part of that redevelopers agreement. So then we could possibly then make condition of approval. We have 40, the other 10, the condition is that you have to produce the long-term written lease agreement from however long, perpetuity, I suppose, since it's a long.
Yeah,
project,
yes.
for the 10 space deficiency. So
Okay,
then we've met our responsibility to apply the parking standards.
yes.
I have a continuation question,
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
because we've kind of seen this before.
Yeah.
If it's 50 required and 40's on site and 10 is elsewhere, are we reviewing the site for the elsewhere, or are we just saying 10 is over there?
Well, the site for the elsewhere, by the time this happens, will be at this board as its own site plan approval.
So we'll be reviewing zoning, if there's additional paving, there might be runoff concerns. that
No,
kind
in
of
other
thing.
words, you're gonna get, in the future,
Okay.
an application for a parking garage that is going to be the subject of part of these amendments.
But you're considering that it has to be a parking garage?
Yes, it has to be
Okay, so
structured
it has to be
parking.
structural, okay.
There can be interim in short term in one of the temporary parking lots, but then there also has to be a lease agreement for a yet to be built parking garage.
So doesn't that put us in a funny position? Why does it have to be done at this point? There is no parking garage, so how can we determine whether or not this is going to be within 600 feet of a particular site?
Because coming up next is the location of the parking garage, or at least one parking garage.
That's in part of this package tonight?
Yes.
Okay, we didn't get that.
Well, and again, I apologize for whatever hiccup. I mean, it's in these amendments that you didn't get the amendment. You only
All
got
we
the
got is the
resolution.
resolution.
Yes, and I apologize for that, for whatever hiccup happened at the office.
Following up on Jason's point, so we would be reviewing a second site as well as the primary site?
No.
So you're gonna be reviewing the primary parking garage in the near future.
Okay.
So that parking garage may accommodate multiple sites.
Correct.
Okay.
So we're gonna look at the site plan for the parking garage, which then may be referred to a number of times.
Correct.
But the idea is that the two applications are connected, because that's another thing, right? If you have like two applications, but you're not considering them independently.
There has to be some sort of easement or some right. lease
Yeah.
agreement.
Right.
You know, that's the lease agreement you're referring to.
Okay.
Mhm.
The first, the horse in front of the cart in this case is the parking garage, X amount of spaces, and then to be divided up amongst the various projects that have deficiencies within X amount of feet of that garage.
Correct, because it's anticipated that this parking garage will have an excess of parking
Okay.
spaces.
What if the let's say it's a project by the master developer and the master developer develops the garage? Do they need a lease agreement with themselves?
Yes,
Okay, just
because what if
The
one
paperwork.
day a parcel, like a project sold
yeah, right.
under another entity name?
I understand.
Just one more thing. I mean, is it customary to assume a lease in perpetuity rather than like a 99-year lease? Like, I feel like legally a 99-year lease is really the most you could possibly do.
Yeah, it might be against the rule of perpetuity.
Right. I don't think we could actually require that.
Bring me back to first year law school real property.
Well,
There
you're
is a
welcome.
document, rule against perpetuities.
You can't do it. Yeah.
But a 99-year lease with an option to renew for an additional 99-year lease, which is similar to
Got
what's done in Ocean Grove,
Yeah.
could be done.
Okay.
So then you're not worried about the
Okay.
rule against perpetuities.
Okay, let's go to the next page. All right, it's the bottom, oh, this guy, okay. So, the next section of amendments to the redevelopment plan have to do with heights. We're going to look at 3 different sites where we are proposing a change in the heights. The first one has to do with block 3203, 3206. This is basically commonly known as the triangle in front of Wesley Grove. There is an upcoming application for development. It went to the TRC already for townhomes in this area. And the townhomes, right now what's permitted height-wise, if you look at this diagram in the corners, you see a 2, a 4-8, and then a 3. These are the permitted heights for that end. The 4-8 is a reference to a step back in the redevelopment plan, which basically says you go 4 tall, and then for your next 4, you have to step the building back from the edge of the sidewalk or the edge of the building. We're proposing to change this, as you can see on the screen, to a 3-4-3, because the proposed application for townhomes it's really a 3-story rather than a 2, and it makes sense for this project. And in lieu of that, the developer is not going to do 8 stories; they're going to do 4. So the house development, which will come to you pretty shortly, is 3 on the ends of height, 3 stories, and in the middle 4. So then the next,
Can I
yes.
ask a quick question about that?
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the change in the heights along that end, you're also changing the location of where the break in the height happens as well, correct?
Yes.
And are you also changing the section dealing with the density of those buildings, density of the dwelling units in those buildings?
No, the density is staying the same.
Well, if you reduce a building from 8 stories to 4 stories, are you going to cut the size of the units in half in order to accommodate the same number of units?
No, because so far with the density chart is, none of the projects have met their density in the chart. It's suggestive, it's not concrete. Those are the maximum densities in the CAFR permit.
So carrying this to a logical conclusion, when you get down to the end of the construction and you have, you've only used 2,000 of your 3,100 units, are you going to cram the other 1,100 units into one building on the site?
No, because I don't think that's physically possible with the height restrictions in the plan.
Then why don't you change the density to accommodate? In other words, if you cut the building from 8 stories to 4 stories, then why shouldn't you cut the density in half to accommodate that change?
Because we believe that that cuts too close to addressing the CAFR permit. In other words, the densities in that chart, even though it exceeds the densities in the CAFR permit density cap is referenced in that chart. We don't think that it's necessary to make that amendment, considering the council and the board has approved multiple projects so far that don't meet the density cap.
Yes, but if you're considering the overall density that is permitted in the waterfront redevelopment plan, and you don't use that density in the various lot and blocks that you're permitting, those excess units should go away. They shouldn't be just permitted to be moved to another location or.
But we're not saying they are permitted to go to another
Right,
location.
if the remaining properties already have a cap of height and density, then they physically can't put.
Except that you get down to a situation where if you cut the 8 stories to 4 stories, and in the 8-story building you contemplated 50 units, are you going to keep those 50 units in the 4-story? Or should they be cut to 25 in the 4-story?
I don't think that's what's being proposed.
No,
Well,
it's not.
it's not being proposed and it should be addressed. That's what I'm saying.
Right, because it's less square footage, but you have the same density.
Much less square footage. That needs to be addressed.
But I'm just going to say that it wasn't addressed when the Vibe was constructed. It wasn't addressed when the Monroe was constructed and approved. It wasn't addressed when the KHAV project was
Well,
approved.
if we keep pushing it down the road,
Right.
we're going to get hit with a situation in the near future where that's going to come and bite us.
But no, because each lot, it's capped. So like no one can cram excess density on a lot. Right now, the tallest height anywhere in this redevelopment plan area is 8 stories, and not for a full block.
All I'm saying is when you reduce the height of these buildings, you need to reduce the density proportionate to the reduction in height.
Okay, duly noted. But let's go to the next page, unless someone else has questions about this particular parcel.
So I understand that they're townhomes, but it does seem to me that, so the reduction to 4 stories is strategic because at 5 and above, you have to build elevator shaft.
No, it's a different form of construction.
Okay, so also a different form
Yeah.
of construction. Okay. So we're allowing less density because it's cost effective.
Basically, for this is what the developer proposed for here. They're permitted to go lower, like they did with other projects. It's what they feel is, what they want to build currently in this market.
There's a height cap, there's no height minimum per se, or density minimum for that matter.
Yeah, correct. Because it's also taking consideration, although we're doing this amendment to allow parking elsewhere, is also if the developer so chooses to put their parking on site, you're also constrained by how many cars you can fit on site.
Right. Yeah. I'm just trying to contemplate, because then we're also incentivizing what are single family or duplex to store. So it's just also like, what mix of housing are you getting
Right.
in a very urban downtown? And you're basically getting single family.
For this project, but there's going to be higher density projects in the future. But and this one before you on the screen, we're amending the heights with the anticipation that this will be a mixed-use commercial building, including a parking structure.
Underneath. They can't go subsurface.
No.
At ground level, they're going to do parking.
Yes, but it will be ringed by retail. It will be a combination of commercial, retail, restaurant, and parking garage. This, what you see before you on the screen, is the back of the Empress. This, in the redevelopment plan and the redevelopers agreement, was always slated to be a parking garage. This amendment on this map basically permits the heights to go, to take away this 366P, which basically, the 3 is in the redevelopment plan if it was not a parking garage. We know it's going to be a parking garage. The redevelopers agreement confirms that it's going to be a parking garage. So we're proposing for it to be the 6. And then the 8 is being reduced to a 2 because we do not anticipate that portion of the lot will be part of a parking garage. It will remain surface parking.
So,
The 2 will remain surface
so
parking, so you're not going to have a street wall there.
This would be
No,
the parking lot that
street wall
currently
would be
exists.
back.
correct.
And
So-
part of that has to do with that is owned by another entity.
Right.
That section of the lot. And
So the six stories at Kingsley, that's intended to be 6 stories of a parking garage?
not just a parking garage,
Retail on the
Ground
bottom.
floor retail and then.
commercial and parking garage.
Yes, like ground floor retail, and
So
then
that 3.6 means it was originally supposed to rise 3 feet and set back and rise another 3 feet?
Right.
Not 3 feet, 3 stories?
No, it was 3 if it was not to be a parking garage.
Oh.
6, but then later came the redeveloper agreement that says it has to be a parking garage.
got it.
Okay. And just the ground floor is gonna be commercial, it's not gonna be like.
No, there'll be other stories of commercial.
Oh,
So, just to clarify, the 2-story, which you say is not under control and therefore will remain, but are you leaving a lot that is so restricted that it can't be redeveloped?
No, I mean, it can be.
Okay.
It can be.
It's hard to tell, I mean, not to harp on this, but not having a scale is very hard. So if probably in the final drawings, there probably should be just like a scale and whatever, because it's just hard to read.
and what was the thought behind the 2 stories? Like, why not leave it at 6?
Because the thought of was not overloading the site.
Okay.
So in the actual wording of this, is there any danger that that 6 would ever end up being 6 stories as opposed to 3 for parking and 3 additional stories? Is there any risk by the way that this is written that it could be misconstrued and passed that it's 6 floors,
No, I mean, there will be total building 6 floors.
right? Yeah, the total building will be 6.
Yes.
I'm just saying that based on what wording is around this, is there any risk that it will not be a garage and it'll be 6 floors.
No, because the redeveloper's agreement solidifies there'll be a garage.
Okay.
So, let's move to the next, height, the next part about heights.
Okay.
So this, what you see before you, I know it said the streets are not on here, but in the final map, the streets will be on there, because this just takes a section, you know, of the map. This is the lot currently behind the Ocean Club, which has I-Stars. Construction trailer and temporary offices. So this is in discussion with the master developer. This site is going to be redeveloped with a large residential project.
To identify, would it be west side of Kingsley between 3rd and 4th?
Yes, thank you. Blanked out. No, because I blanked out for a minute. Actually,
Okay, this is existing,
Jennifer,
this is the.
will you push down to the proposed height? Okay. So these are the new proposed heights, and we have an increase in the middle from the 3 to the 4. We have a reduction in two spots from 8s to 6s, and in 2 spots from 4 to 6s. So yet there is a small bump up in height on this site, but after discussion about this project, we find it's negligible. And when the request for the bump up in height is to be able to do a building with a large footprint.
What is that negligible height?
I'm sorry, what?
What is the negligible height
It's
on your
about
bump
2
up?
stories. We lose
2 stories is negligible.
we go from a 3 to a 4. So we gain 1 story there. I'm sorry. We go down from an 8 to a 6, so we lose 2 there. But then we go in 2 sections from a 4 to a 6.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So this was originally conceived as possibly a variety of different buildings
No.
on that block?
No. So one of the
And
interesting
it's very confusing, why they have all these different,
to allow siteways. So, but this plan, if you go to the plan itself on the website, and it has the pictures of the scale models.
right,
These were anticipated as big buildings that went
Right.
up and down,
Right.
but they were anticipated to be single
it was
block.
always considered a single building with just a variety, like towers and just a variety of heights within
Yes.
that one structure.
Yes,
So like North Beach.
Right, yeah.
right. There was one structure in the whole of the development area that was. I shouldn't say the whole, but they all are per the heights. But the one that actually very visible is North Beach, with the section through the middle. Although very few people can discern that from the ground. We have heard from the master developer, from some of the subsequent redevelopers, that this is very difficult to construct, especially to go from an 8 to a 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also
Yeah,
met.
matching.
Huh?
I mean, that makes sense.
Right. So the 4 to the 6 is not as bad.
And the proposed, I guess, muse you would call it, the alley, that's still intended to be there.
No.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to see the app.
Great. So essentially, those middle heights don't really matter per se, because it's not a building facade at a street level. It's the center of the building, essentially.
Yeah, the building, it matters because it will drop down to the 4.
Mhm.
Part of the idea of the plan was when it went towards the west, the heights decrease
Right,
in the
right,
neighborhood.
right.
So
You
we still
transition
have
back.
that.
Yeah, now that makes
But
sense.
basically, it's so we'll go from a 6 to a 4, but down the middle, it's going to stay the 4.
What's the reasoning for that? Like the decreased height in the middle? Is that for like a common area?
No, that's for a view corridor.
So if you have,
If you-
units here, you could see through kind of.
When you look at the map and the
So you have
redevelopment
more
plan, every block has it.
Okay.
So it's not a muse or alley, what is the break?
There won't be.
There won't be.
This,
Giant building.
so this is not, this no longer exists.
That's not gonna be.
The 2018 amendment to the redevelopment plan basically said that the muse and the alley shown in the plan do not necessarily have to be built.
From your diagram up here, it appears that you're moving leaving the three-story portions of the building on the west end as is, and now you're moving your higher buildings towards the east side, and you're totally blocking the view that you have of the ocean and all that advantage that you had built into this originally.
The only
Actually, no.
place going up
This is west.
is the middle.
This is Kingsley, but this is west.
You're moving
Kingsley's
You're
down here.
moving the,
We're
But you're
swapping,
going from 8
you're moving,
to 6.
on the Third Avenue side, you're moving the 4-story to 6, correct?
right, but then we go down from 8 to 6. So we have a reduction, meaning
Yeah, but you're still blocking from the other side, from the west side, you're still trying to change.
Yeah, but that condition still existed when there was an 8-story in front of it,
That's so different.
right? I mean, if you're
So different, it's
if you're on the
all-
western portion of the lot, whether it's a 6 or an 8, your view was
Being blocked.
blocked
Yeah.
anyway.
No matter what.
Sort
Right
of.
down the
But
middle.
actually, it's better, but still.
It's a little better.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
And have you changed the overall number of dwelling units in this?
no.
They're still the same?
Right, we're not making any proposed changes to that chart.
Okay. Have you checked it out to see whether or not you're losing, some of this is going to be parking garage, correct?
No, we moved on from that site. This is not going to have a parking garage.
There's no parking on site.
No, I mean, parking will be on site. But
For these units.
yes,
Yeah,
meaning,
but
but the other, we moved on. This is the third building height amendment.
Well, since none of these are labeled, it's kind of hard to follow.
It's just because on the screen it's cut off, because this is listed as item number 5.
Sorry,
No.
you said this, the alleyway or the muse is optional, like they haven't decided whether or not they are going to.
But we believe they're not going to do it.
So just for some historical context here, is it true the original waterfront these were urban design principles that were Andres Duany and whatever, and they were based on new urbanism, right? And
Right.
basically like no one wants new urbanism anymore, so we're adapting a plan. But I think the thing is that these heights and everything else were the result of an urban design review that really looked at the impact, not just specific site plans because those weren't proposed yet, but they were the result of actual visual studies and impact studies and everything else. So I do think that it's a little bit hard just to look at the plan adjustment without understanding, okay, so now you have, a base parking lot with retail around it, and that's great. But I think there has to be some kind of urban design impact study to understand what it is that we're allowing. And maybe I don't want to do it at more cost or anything else, but I think that the original intent of this was it was an urban design based architectural standard plan. I agree that we need to move on from that because times have changed, but I don't think that we should make decisions about heights without understanding without seeing heights, really.
Like context. Like
Right.
The overall.
Yeah.
development of the site.
It just makes it's hard to review in plan without scale and without whatever. So I guess maybe, and I don't know how to do, because we have limited staff and everything else, but there needs to be some kind of understanding of like what the diagrams mean in context.
Well, I apologize because you don't have the full plan in front of you that shows those models.
Well, that's my question.
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
Is the developer taking each block individually and saying, okay, this is what we originally wanted to do, but now we're having changed it apart, now we want to do this?
No,
Or- because this is kind of what we're doing right now. We're taking each block and saying, okay, we're going to do this here, and then we go to the next block. And say, okay, we're going to do this here. Well, how does that fit in the overall development of that whole waterfront?
Well, here's the thing. This developer, this master developer, is not the original developer when this plan was created.
Right.
That developer went bankrupt. Yes. I believe that a lot of the design was done in a bubble. If you look at the drawings and the plan, some of the buildings just really make no economic sense to be built. And I'm saying that very truthfully because it's not as though they can't be built because the master developer wants to make more money. Especially what we just reviewed with the first one, with the two-story to the 8. We looked at the model for that. It made no sense. Why would someone at that corner and where the lines were build a small box of 2 stories and then jump to 8? Some of it just doesn't make any sense. And then the biggest thing that doesn't make sense with any of this, which was the case when the plan was created and it's still the case now, it makes zero economic sense to build 8 stories because of the International Construction Code. When you hit 5, you have to go to steel.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
That's not necessarily true. They're concrete buildings, they're 20-story concrete. Just construction codes have gotten a lot better, and you can go up, you can go 30 stories with concrete now. But yeah,
but my point,
I understand the economic considerations of
I
it.
think it's easier to consider this or to contemplate these changes when we can see it in an overall illustration, an overall rendering of how, what you're proposing and how this relates to this, what's already developed here, how this is going to relate to what you have planned here, how this is going to relate to what's over here. Doing it block by block is really just kind of like, it seems almost random and arbitrary. And especially looking at it in like one-dimensional or two-dimensional.
well, that I agree. Of course, what you have before you is
we're trying to get
not the best
volume and
illustrated.
scale and.
But saying that we're talking about 3 projects that are very concrete. So these are 3 very concrete projects. They're going to happen very soon, and definitely the one with the parking garage is going to be very important. It's going to increase the amount of parking at the beach significantly. All the parking lots at the beach are interim parking lots. So that's a very important project that's coming up. And then what you see before you now is another important project that will produce many residential units.
I think they're all important. I'm not discounting the importance of any of it. I think it's all very important. But I mean, I think the issue is the context of it, being able to see it in a whole schematic.
Let's just say, for instance, and this is like extremely hypothetical, but we've had developers who go bankrupt that we hope will never happen again. But we're essentially changing an underlying code, like your determining that there are these projects that have been designed that are down the line, but really what we're doing is that we're ensuring that these sites are designed whoever comes along.
These, though, will be developed by the master developer.
The master developer could, I'm just saying,
Could leave tomorrow.
there's a kind of principle around this, which is that we are giving urban design guidelines to whomever develops in the future.
Not to belabor this, but we're changing the height. The design standards, the bulk standards in this plan remain the same. This plan has about 8 pages.
Jason's phone disagrees. No, I'm just kidding.
It went off when he was cleaning.
This plan has 8 pages of design guidelines.
Well, and also to your point, is it fair to say, Michelle, that these heights were reviewed in context and that we're just getting a summary of the change? Yeah. It's just that we're not seeing them in context.
But I think that's hard.
But that's hard.
That's
Yeah.
hard because you have to take action on it. And
I don't
think about it.
disagree,
We don't-
yeah.
It is
Right.
challenging because we're also on the planning board, which that's probably one of the more, I mean, it's important to understand the content.
Yeah.
Obviously, for anybody.
So would it be fair to ask for more context around these, to say, so that we have some idea of what we're approving, because it's hard to say from this, and you do have the other documentation.
Well, no, some of it, again, was not, I'll be truthful, I didn't see any drawings for the parking garage and the site.
Mm-hmm.
I just know from knowing this plan
Mm-hmm.
and just be able to visualize it, and also when you look in the plan, it has the scales, the built scale photos. I can envision, what this will look like. And of course, if you're gonna do a large residential building, you need a large footprint, thus what you see
It
before
totally
you.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Everything that you're saying makes like
Yeah, I'm not-
100%
I'm not
sense.
negating that.
It very much rings true, yeah.
I'm actually looking at this, I mean, I think it's the decrease in the height on Kingsley is a better
I think they're all improvements, likely.
Yeah, so I mean, it seems like it's a more balanced kind of scale to the proposed, what they're gonna do in the future, so I can see that.
But I just question, do we have enough information to feel comfortable to make some sort of a decision here?
I'd really like to see the overall
Yeah.
plan.
I have to make a premise here.
Sure.
The boardwalk construction cannot begin without the amendment to this redevelopment plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're a little bit at risk of not having a boardwalk there again for another season.
I don't know, that's a hard criteria to make us judge
No,
on.
and I'm saying this because this is something that is the reality, because for the construction of a non-curvilinear boardwalk to begin, this plan has to be amended. And this plan amendment needs the approval of the master developer.
Mm-hmm. Do each
I don't
of,
think that's a good enough reason to make a not fully informed decision on
Is
the
it,
part of the board.
do we have to approve the entire, can we approve the?
The master developer will not let part of it go without the whole.
And also, we were referred by the council with the whole packet, so I don't think we can,
I got you.
I mean, I guess we
This is
could.
like an application. This is-
Right, but, and I'm saying this, I found these amendments. Myself, the municipal council referred this to you, found these height changes benign, because they're so slight. And some of them swap additional height on the site for lower heights on the site. If something here was red flagged, and I thought it was not the best development, I would not be here before you tonight as a licensed planner and be able to recommend that these changes are benign.
I think we found the lower heights a positive rather than a negative.
Certainly.
I say we continue on through,
I agree.
and maybe we can, maybe at the end, if there's time, go back and just take a look at the heights in the adjacent properties.
So the next section, which is item number 6, former relief for building height breaks that deviate from specific locations shown on development control plan. So let me explain this a little. So the heights that you've been looking at, and if we go back to one of the sketches where you see the breaks, it's already written in the plan that the board gets to determine where those breaks happen. And not this board with this current composition, some of the members who have been here a while had made that determination for the Ocean Club, for the K-Hop project. It was not exactly where the breaks are shown on the plan. So, but what this does is actually gives the board a little bit more power. Because let's say you get a project and it's showing the breaks, and you disagree with where the breaks are. The request for those breaks now becomes a variance, and it's at the discretion of the board whether you grant where those breaks occur.
We're given that power?
Yes, you're now, with this amendment, you're given that power.
We had it before.
All right.
Does that make sense?
No,
Okay.
we had that before. We had that from the original plan.
It wasn't considered a variance. No, this firms up the language. Because you were doing that before, as I discovered when I went and looked back at the map for the K-Hop project and the Monroe. Yes, you did it. But let's say, this gives you more power because now it's applied for as a variance.
Instead of a design relief.
Yes.
Right.
So if we said no to the variance, they could do the break where they wanted.
Right.
Right.
So, okay, next item, which is number 7, master developer affiliated entities do not require subsequent developer agreement. Now, this is a housekeeping thing. When we did the 2018 amendment, which let block by block happen, and now you become a subsequent redeveloper of the master developer in the city, not just the master developer. Basically, anyone can make an application. You make we have an application pack, and you fill it out, you include drawings, a pro forma.
Application for what?
Subsequent redeveloper.
Just want to make sure that's what you're talking about.
Which we didn't have before, because before it was automatic, you had to go to the master developer, and you came in with the master developer. Now, as you're gonna see tonight, the process has changed that anyone in the redevelopment area can make application for development. That wasn't the case before, but it begins with a subsequent redeveloper application. What this does is basically, if the master developer the entity is owned or controlled by the master developer, they have a spin-off entity, a spin-off renewal entity or redevelopment entity. They don't have to make that initial application to themselves. It's just a logical step, because that original subsequent redeveloper application is an application to the master developer. And we just had this because AP Triangle, which is the master developer, just made an application to the master developer. So this is a housekeeping item where basically they get to skip that step because they're the same entity.
Is there a concern?
So if I may, Michael?
Were you going to say 100%?
100%.
That's what I was just going to ask.
No, but it's not 100% because we're treating it basically, if they're conjoined with the master developer, then they do the whole process. In other words, it's still the same thing. That they still, because basically if the master developer owns a percentage, they're aware of the project and they don't need to make an application to themselves. It
Doesn't matter.
doesn't relinquish any of the other requirements of being a subsequent redeveloper. They still go to TRC, they still go to council, they still come here. They just skip that first application process.
Yeah, I'm just thinking this out. So, like, if the master developer was a 5% holder of a LLC, that LLC could skip the whole process.
No, they only skip the first part of the process.
Oh,
Skip
okay.
the first part.
Oh, yeah. Apply to themselves. Yeah,
Right.
I got it. Okay. Got it.
That makes sense.
Okay, the next part, item 8, modify conditions of a certain property acquisitions. This goes back to talking about the Empress parking lot garage. This puts in language that the city is not required to have to do eminent domain on the Empress parking lot. Because the original redevelopment plan and redevelopers agreement envisioned us using eminent domain, taking the whole lot, and the master developer doing the structured parking on the whole lot.
Wasn't this changed in the last modification to the, or last amendment to the waterfront redevelopment plan, where you permitted a lot by lot?
No.
No.
It was discussed, it was discussed that this was something we would think about doing. but then we were like, we'll do it later, and now is later. So that leaves us to item number 9,
This plan has been amended to prevent lot bylaw.
which is adding an architectural design guideline because of this parking garage that's to come online pretty soon. There's because of probably for the staircase elevator shaft, you're going to have a big blank wall for 6 stories. So the master developer talked about doing a mural. We're on board with the mural, but we put in a design guideline that any mural that's more than 1 story in height now is required to get approval of the municipal council and the public art commission. And it's not only just, it's anticipation of the garage, but this would apply throughout the whole waterfront area, which makes sense because you may be unaware that the way the public art ordinance reads, that if you receive a land use approval, you're not required to go to public art commission.
So
But
what this sounds like is that this sounds like something that we would want to put in many applications just as a condition to say, if there's going to be a mural, it has to go in front of the Public Art Commission.
We usually do have that condition.
If we know they're going to be there.
Right.
But if we don't know it's going to be there,
Yeah.
they don't have to come back.
True.
Right.
Just put it in every resolution.
Yeah, just to put it in every one. Just if there's going to be one, that would be something that Jack could do for us.
I'm
Would that be for more than 1 story?
confused about this last piece because I think you indicated earlier, and maybe it's because I'm not able to follow all the like lots, but you indicated earlier that the parking structure was interior, that there was commercial around it. So here we're having like a standalone parking.
No.
The wall,
No.
the wall adjacent to the Empress parking lot is gonna be a big blank wall.
Okay, so adjacent to the Empress parking lot is going to be a big blank wall.
No, it's anticipated that there would be blank parts of the wall because of for the staircase.
But isn't the wall adjacent to the Empress parking lot gonna be a big blank wall? It's got like 6 height.
No, I mean, it's not all going to be a big blank wall. There'll be portions that'll be a big blank wall. No, I'm serious.
Let me look at the thing again. So which one is the Empress site in this?
Item
The
number.
second set of maps.
That one,
This one.
right
Item
there.
2? or
Okay,
item
and you're
4?
removing a 2-story and you're having a 6-story
'Cause really that-
blank wall, parts of which stairways will be
It could be.
a
yes.
6-story blank wall. And are you sure, I know I already asked this question, but are you sure that that 2-story part that's removed is developable? Like that is an adequate lot, that if someone wanted to do a future development on it, and it's not like they'd have to get a million variances because setbacks and everything else? Like, is the piece you're leaving there developable?
To the certain extent that it's developable for some things, but not everything because it's so shallow.
I just want to make sure we're not creating a situation, right? It's the same thing as doing like a subdivision of a lot, where then you're creating a lot that ultimately can't be developed ever. That lot would be
it can be
approved.
developed.
With what?
It can be developed with commercial. It can
Yeah.
be developed with retail.
I mean, I do see where Alexis is coming from a little bit. I mean, would it make sense for us to give a recommendation back to the council to say that we should just keep the 6 there? That way in the future, hide.
Why do we need to bring it down to 2?
You hide that garage, you know?
Not if there's a ventilation system. I mean,
Oh.
you can make the recommendation for the 6. Part of the idea was to take some height off the lot. The thing is, it's
It's a really narrow lot.
Yeah.
6 stories.
it would probably not really get developed to 6.
Yeah, but at least see.
And one of the blank wall. Yeah.
It's not going to be a big blank, a whole
Right, because it'll be opening for the.
blank. It would be for a portion anticipated. If you look at 1101 Ocean has, I believe, big blank areas on the ground floor. One mural went up. That was part of the original development. Second mural is to go up for the second set of big blank wall, and that's on the ground floor.
I just think if you're gonna have 8 stories across the street, why not just allow the more height?
It seems like if you're gonna allow that to be 6 stories, it would have to be part of the entire development. Your flood's just
Well,
a very
yeah,
small
right.
lot to develop a 6-story building.
Well, there's that too. I mean, that could still be an option, right?
But they don't know.
Well, no, but the owner could say, could they not say that they want to be part of the development?
Yeah, if you want to make the recommendation to leave it at 6, make the recommendation to leave it at 6. The idea was to bring a little bit of height down on the site, but if the board wants to recommend it at 6.
You know, I follow with Michael, so if it's maybe the owner decides he does want to sell it, then if we limit to 2, then they have to come back before us to get
More
height.
right.
To redevelop.
Fine.
So we're pushing.
Yes.
Also, ultimately, like, if you want to screen a parking lot, the best way to screen a parking lot is put a building in front of it that actually has like a commercial use.
Completely agreed, but there would still, depending, have to be a distance requirement between the 2 buildings.
But still, it would
Yeah.
be, in terms of view shed, I mean, it's the best screening you could possibly have is to put an active use on that corner.
For sure. With some great views.
Yeah.
So we should do that.
We could recommend that stay at 6.
Mm-hmm.
I would offer that recommendation. It's just a recommendation. It doesn't have to be.
I mean, and it'll be taken into consideration.
Sure.
I mean, not to mention it's like the south-facing portion of the lot, so it's the most desirable to build on in terms of just sun and exposure, view, everything. It's the best part.
Does the board have any other questions?
Yes.
Procedurally, since this has to be presented to the council before our next meeting, there'll be no time for me to do a resolution and draft up the recommendations that you give. So it's my understanding that perhaps Yvonne and or Michelle will be presenting feedback from the board to the mayor and council. So we need to go through whatever your recommendations are, set them down to writing, perhaps Michelle. And then I will do a resolution because it's required, but there's no time to do a resolution between now and the deadline with the council.
And just to be clear, so I'm understanding that there's a time urgency around this. It's because the boardwalk's being held hostage. But we couldn't ask for more time. Like
We have time. By law, we have 45 days
Right.
within which. This resolution is dated the 11th of September, and it's 45 days from the date it was delivered to us.
But the urgency of the council is that they don't want anything to hold up the
Exactly.
boardwalk.
It's supposed to start construction.
Right.
2 weeks.
Understood. I'm just getting this all in.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
taking it all in.
I'm just
So this is all going to affect me. So
So it seems like we only have one point of contention, would be the height on Asbury Avenue adjacent.
And I wouldn't say it's a point of contention.
Not a point of contention,
I'd
just-
say
It's
it's
a
a thought.
Leave it at that?
Yeah.
Leave it at 8 instead of 2?
Or 6.
Or
What's that?
six.
Make it
Make it
6.
6?
Yeah.
Instead of 2?
and do you need a vote on this, or is this
Yeah.
just?
Yes. Yeah. I need a consensus as to what the recommendations are of the board.
I think that a number of these are actually very good recommendations that you've proposed to kind of both clean things up and to also hold some feet to the fire also. So I think that a lot of this is really very good information.
Barbara, if I may,
Sure.
I'm sorry for interruption. Before you discuss your recommendations, since you opened the last plan amendment to public comment, you should open this one.
Okay.
You may want to hear public comments first before you decide what your recommendations are.
Sure, go ahead. Wait just a second. Jen has a question.
Sorry, this is way back to 3.2. This is a really small thing, but now that I see it in front of me, you had mentioned the word, the boardwalk extension shall include, but not be limited to, new public bathroom facilities, beach access, and bicycle parking. Why does that but not be limited to, that has to be in there?
So we don't, yeah, so that if there's other amenities that we may want, then we're not locked into just those amenities listed.
And what if there was, so there's no, I mean, obviously you'd have to go through a process again. I'm just concerned if there was something, it seems very wide open. So you could do anything. And we'd have to go through the process again. If there was something else, like a.
Well, the first thing shall include, I mean, this kind of leaves open for anything.
No, I mean, it says that those things are locked in. The restroom facility, the beach access, and the bicycle parking.
So that's what has to happen.
But
Oh, shit.
Oh, no, it's concrete. What am I saying? It's concrete.
So are you,
I was just
are you
wondering, so
asking what else could it be?
Well, I'm saying, is there anything else that could slip in there that we don't want?
Oh, does it leave it too open for any?
Something that we're not anticipating? I mean, good or bad? Like if someone wanted to do something that's not listed here, what would that process?
well, the boardwalk is a city it's a city land,
Right, so the city would,
but that the master developer is going to be building it.
right,
So that anything that it would be up to the municipal council
to make the decision.
to make the decision.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. Anything else from the board? Okay. A motion to open to public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment?
This is comment or a question or both?
Both.
Both.
It's my perfect forte.
Raise your right hand, please.
I'm sworn in before?
No, you have
No,
to.
new application.
Okay.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you give during these proceedings will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Ernest McNally, 400 Deal Lake Drive, Asbury Park, New Jersey. Happens to be right in my neighborhood. So, if I could, I wrote down some things, and for number one, if we could look at the agenda, I'm looking at items 1 and 2, the applicants 1 and 2, and then applicant 3. Doesn't applicant 3 have their name there? Isn't it? Development Group LLC? Or am I looking at the wrong agenda?
It's the waterfront redevelopment area, it's number 2.
No, I'm looking at applications number 3. It says, Redevelopment Group LLC. That must be the applicant, yes?
That's the
No.
next application.
That's not the applicant.
That's not the
No, this-
application.
The city is the applicant.
Number 2.
The city is the
The
applicant.
city, yeah.
We're talking about item 3?
We're talking about 2.
Wait,
Two.
wait, I'm talking about item 3.
We're not on item
We're
three.
not on
You're
three.
skipping ahead. You're skipping ahead.
Number 2.
This is number 2.
This is
I know
number
what
two.
this is. I'm asking you a question about item 3, though.
Oh.
We're not there.
Answering questions.
We haven't done anything
Well,
with
wait a
3.
minute. The question is about the agenda. So let me ask it another
Yeah, but the comments have to be
Okay, let me ask it another way. So this is item 2, yes?
correct.
Okay. Who's the applicant?
The city.
The city,
This-
City.
correct.
Where does it say that?
It's a resolution that was referred by the council, so it's implied that it's a city.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I'm just telling
I'm
you.
sitting here listening. This is a profound, major impact on the area. I would venture to say no one in the city, residents who owns property like me, knows anything about what we're talking here about. That.
You made that comment again before, but these agendas are put out
They're
as
what?
part of the agendas for the planning board are put out as part of the public process. The meetings are advertised in the newspaper, so everyone knows about the meetings that are occurring.
And
If they choose not to be here, that's on them.
Okay. But if you, so item number 2, you're saying the applicant is the city.
Correct.
It's not an application for development. It's a referral of ordinance amendments from the city, mayor and council, in their capacity as redevelopment authority, over to the planning board, and the planning board in its capacity of advising is to give recommendations, non-binding recommendations to the mayor and council.
And why does it say below, formal action may be taken?
We
Because we can.
Approve it.
Because we take.
It says right below, doesn't it, or am I?
Yeah, we're gonna
Item
take
two,
action.
formal action may be
We
taken.
take action. Formal action is the recommendations that the board's gonna make back to the council.
Are you voting on anything tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
The recommendations that they're gonna make back to the council.
Only the recommendation,
That's it.
Correct.
no approval.
No, we
No.
don't approve or disapprove of this.
Okay.
No, I'm just.
I'm kind of with you, but
Fair question.
again,
It's a fair
I
question.
do think that, maybe it would be helpful to someone like me, where it would say item 2, waterfront redevelopment area, application by City of Asbury Park, Inc. Am I right?
No,
I'm not right. So then it's unknown.
no, it clearly says it's
It-
amendments to the waterfront redevelopment plan to include boardwalk improvements, off-site parking, revised development control maps, and other amendments. That's what's before us.
So,
It's not an application.
It's not an application for development.
It's not, the city's not building anything.
you have to forgive me.
Yeah.
I'm a lowly professor. It's under the heading of applications, and now you're telling me it's not an application.
Oh, God.
It's
Then
not
I'm
a site
asking you,
plan application.
Who's making it, and you're saying, the city. Well, then why doesn't it say the city? Then you're saying it's just for applications, nothing formal, and then it says formal things may be decided. And then you say, well, wait a minute, that means formal recommendation.
Well, it's not
How am
a,
I supposed to know all this?
it's not a site plan application. The
And
city
why-
is not constructing a building.
Why
It
does
is
it
a,
always seem like a homeowner's got a lot vested in here? It seems like I get everyone in the room, not the public, just coming at me with stuff like, come on, Miguel, you don't understand this, you don't understand
we're just
that."
trying to explain it to you, Mr.
Yeah, I
Minoli.
know, but from your perspective.
Yeah.
But how about explaining from mine? For example, from mine. Why does that, what is that, a 10-page document tonight?
Yes.
Okay, when did you get it, Mr. Mansella?
We have the resolution,
No, I'm saying, when it was put in your hand?
this document,
That document.
just here, just
Yeah.
now.
Just a little while ago.
Is that professional?
We had the resolution, though, that has the summary of all the
Well, no,
recommendations.
We're not talking summary.
Sure.
The basis of what you're doing here is based on, I think, is that a 10-page document on the monitor?
That's correct.
Okay. Was it not just handed to you all?
The paper copy was, yes.
That's exactly correct.
Yes.
Now, why is that? The city planner said, well, it's in my office. I didn't bring it. I think the secretary went up and got it. Well, why wouldn't you bring it in the first place?
It was a mistake.
In other words, and why can't
It was
I have
oversight.
a copy?
It was an oversight.
Here we go. Now,
Oversight's happen.
seven people are going to come at me now. I'm talking to Mr. Manzella.
Yes.
So, why didn't I get a copy? And
It was
why-
a-
I don't have a copy now.
If you
On the
went to the
city
planning
website.
office, it was available for review.
It's on the city
Can I
website
tell you,
because
can I tell you something? I had no idea that this was connected to meandering boardwalk.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I think we're talking about near Asbury
But-
Tower.
Right, but this resolution was on the council agenda. I think you attended that meeting, actually.
Yeah, I know. Now, look, city attorney left. Look, Mr. Mantel, let me
Yeah,
tell you something.
yeah.
I got to be honest with you.
Sure.
I'm a homeowner here for 12 years.
Yeah.
Taxpayer. right?
Yeah.
I live right in this area.
Sure.
Can I tell you how I feel when I come to these meetings?
Yeah.
Good. I feel like everyone here is against the homeowner.
I'm sorry.
Actually, you
I'm-
said this many
I'm
times.
just giving my.
I'm
Something
sorry you
you
feel
said.
that way, but we're trying to explain it
Well,
to you,
can I-
and then you come back
Well,
at us.
listen,
So
this is on APTV, isn't it?
great, yeah.
Good.
right.
So everything you say is recorded.
Mhm.
Right.
Everything I say is recorded.
That's right.
Okay, good. So can I express my feelings? You
Please.
said yes. Before I even finished, you're like, rah, rah. So
Because can
Why
I be
can't I
can I
finish?
be fair? What happens is
Fair.
that you say the same thing all the time.
And it's not related to this
So it's
application.
not related to this
can I tell you
application.
something?
Can I ask you-
Can I
Yes.
tell you something?
Sure.
Or can I suggest to you,
Sure.
Madam Chairman? What if you're doing things inappropriate all the time, and I just bring it out?
That's your comment.
Well, thank
can I
you,
ask you
but
a
then you're
question?
saying I can't make it because I say it all the time. I'll tell you what, the day I come here and I see everything done the way I think is appropriate and legal and correct, I won't say a word. But until that time, I'm going to be up at this mic every time because it's my opinion that this is nothing but a big bait and switch here. It goes on over and over, and I feel my tax money is paying a city attorney who seems to be right on with everything that comes across the panel here. It's almost like this group is like, my opinion, working against the 15,000 people who live here.
Can I
And,
ask you a
and, and if, I just want to finish, and if you don't think so, when we walk around Asbury, the city is being taken away from us.
Can I ask you a
Why?
question now?
Why? Because of meetings like this, where it's a big bait.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
So, Do you do any preparation for these meetings? Do you get on the website and look up these applications and study them and go around and see what the application's about? Do you talk to the planner if you have questions about anything? Do you print any of these documents and study them before you come to the meeting? Or do you just come and get an agenda and then get up there and start asking all kinds of questions about something that you haven't even bothered to look at, and you say that you don't know any of this, but have you done any of the research and the homework prior to the meeting so that you do know what's going on when you come to the meeting? Have you done any of that?
Is that a lecture?
No, I'm asking. That's
Because
my
it sounds
question.
like a lecture to me. You're
No, I'm
waving your
asking
hand
you.
at
You're
me.
coming
Now I'll
here.
wave my hand back.
You come in here
And let me
you come
say,
at us all the
listen,
time, and I'm asking you, do you ever do any, you say, this is not available, I don't have it. You say, I don't have it, I don't know this, I don't know anything's going on. You have the opportunity to get all this documentation from the planning board, it's on the website, do you print any of that and study any of it before the meeting?
also, how come you just got the 10-page document?
Bring it. I'm asking, I'm not asking you, I'm asking you, do you
All right,
ever do it?
I
Do
ask
you
you,
ever?
I do a lot of research, but can I keep up with everything that's going on in the city? You got
Well, you
60
should,
lawyers,
if you're
20
concerned.
planners. A human being could spend their entire life trying to keep up with what's going on in Asbury. The end result is the 15,000 people, a lot of which I talk to, don't like anything that's going on. We
Where
just
are they?
can't figure
Why aren't they here?
Where are they?
Well,
Where are they?
You know what?
Are you the official?
Actually, some of them are sitting right in front of me. I believe most of you to be on that committee, don't you, on the board, don't you have to be a resident?
We're all residents.
We're homeowners too.
Well, don't you?
So,
I think you have to be a resident of Asbury to be on the board, don't you?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, here, we have a council person.
No.
It's my opinion. What was he going to say? Cut him off.
Can we move on with this?
You wanna move on?
Mr. Vignoli, we do want to hear your comments about this application. If you have comments about this application specifically, we want to hear them.
Well, what am I talking about? I'm not talking
Not the
about
application.
Belmont.
You're talking about the process, you're talking about the board.
Now everybody's going to start waving their hands at me. Okay, let's move on. I can't believe this board.
Yeah.
You guys really come at people. You don't know how it feels to be on
All
this
right,
side.
let's move on.
Here
Let's
we go.
go.
Here goes the hand.
Let's
move
go.
on.
That's
Okay.
right. Let's go.
Here we go.
We still have another application
So
to
this
hear
meeting,
tonight.
this meeting is on APTV, audio visual, archived, and I can get a copy.
Yes.
And that would allow me, like like the board member said, said to me, use the mic. Well, I just sit and listen to this whole meeting, and none of you are using the mic. I can't hear a word you're saying. So what you're saying is when I get this and I go apply for it, the CD, or when I see it on YouTube, I'm going to be able to hear those little quiet comments. Yes?
Sure. Whatever's on APTV, you will be able to hear.
Okay, that's great. Moving on. I'd like to ask the planner a question.
Sure.
How long are you with the city of Asbury as a
That's
planner?
irrelevant.
That's irrelevant.
Irrelevant to what?
It's irrelevant. What's your question?
That was
What's
my
your real question according
I'll
to
stop.
this
You said it's
application?
irrelevant? I'll stop. Because I was trying to go as to the expertise. He's making a lot of comments about
Come on.
8 stories.
You've accepted
half
Keep
the-
it going.
She's a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey, Mr.
Wait a
Vignoli.
minute. Now you're, okay, wait a minute. You want me to withdraw the question?
I don't.
Can I ask it or not?
You already asked it, and we said it's irrelevant.
Okay, so that's an answer.
Okay.
Then I won't ask about Newark and Jack Kelly, because that's, we're the planner. Moving on. So during the meeting, I noticed the planner, the secretary, and I think it's a lawyer that I recognize from some of the cool projects and stuff here, seem to be doing like a lot of chattering, and doesn't everybody have to be under oath? That's my question. I guess no one. So let's move on. At the meeting, as far as I'm concerned, they're not sworn in, and they're impacting the meeting. When you talk about height, it's a major concern here. Am I correct? We're talking about the parcel near the Asbury Tower?
No.
No.
Where is
No.
it? Where is it?
No, one of the parcels was between 3rd and 4th on Kingsley,
Right?
and the other was near the casino building on the south
Near
end.
so it's on the other side.
On the south end.
So when you say meandering boardwalk, we're not talking about the north end?
No, the boardwalk is the north end, but the heights that we're talking about is further south.
Okay.
You're talking about several different amendments.
Okay, just
to
so
the
you
master
understand,
plan.
in my life, I bought, sold, owned a lot of real estate. I'm not as non-research as they may say, or not inexperienced as they say. I know a lot about Asbury, I know a lot about construction and buildings. But I gotta tell you something. When you come here following all this, you can't figure out who's what. A developer under this name wants this approval, then they change their name on another parking lot. So that's just my comment.
Okay.
And I don't think I'm the only one confused.
All right.
The secretary, no, the planner said, we looked at the model. Is there a model somewhere?
There are images of a model in the redevelopment plan. That is what I looked at.
And where are those models now?
I believe.
They're on the website.
They're on the web, no, the physical, we're talking the models that used to be, I think, on the boardwalk.
You have page references that you.
No, there's not a physical model.
There was.
Model is in the document, the redevelopment.
Well,
Right, there
agreement?
was a
If-
physical model. There's very clear images of the model in the redevelopment plan.
Okay, I'm under the impression, at least I thought I saw 15, 20 years, a long time ago, physical models being shown on the boardwalk and various places of all this. Someone told me they may be on the wall, like in the planning area. There's physical models somewhere. There are physical models. So I thought that was the reference, but now you're saying the reference to the model, what do we call it? One view, flat, not a real model. When you say model, people think, oh, that's the little cardboard thing where you can really see it. Okay, so that's not what we're referring to.
We're
Okay.
referring to pages in the redevelopment plan. But that's irrelevant as well, because I refer to the model as imagery that's a reference to this amendment.
Okay, well, I'll have to wait to APTV to hear that. But anyway, moving on. Again, you asked me to use the microphone, and yet still people don't. I mean, most people up there don't even have a microphone in front of them. Why not? And why don't they use it?
I don't know who's
you,
missing.
Don't you? You have to understand, when we're out here, all we hear is bip, 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 little. We can't hear anything. Who's that? Oh, okay. Well, I'm 71, and now it's tough for me to hear.
We'll make an effort to speak louder, Mr. McNulty.
Thank you, I appreciate
Okay,
it.
yes.
See, you notice everybody joins in. Everybody's got a comment to make. Oh, what is this we hear something about, by the words of the board member on the right-hand side? So basically, you're holding the boardwalk hostage, the north, you mean for next summer, I guess, the rebuilding of the north end boardwalk. Now, that's not what we meant. What was being held hostage?
There's a timing issue that allows the boardwalk to be built by next summer or not.
Okay.
That's
So-
the extent to which, so you heard the exact same testimony I did, that's the extent to which I understand it. That there is a timing urgency so that the boardwalk can be constructed.
I wrote down, you said something in a conversation, you said, so you're going to hold the boardwalk hostage.
Right, and it's on APTV, yep, I did, yep.
Okay, good. Okay. That's not a favorable. And I'm not saying you. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And I really applaud you for saying it. But the thing is, that's exactly what's going on here. And it's not the first time. You know, when we had the Asbury.
Okay.
What?
Let's keep going. Keep going.
I'm moving on.
Okay.
So similar to this application, I noticed that when there's height things going on, that it's always this kind of meeting where nobody really knows. And then it's always tied to something else. Well, if you let us put 17 stories, we'll leave Harmon Cove alone. Then you get 17 stories, now we want to develop Harmon Cove. Then, if you let us build this.
What's your question? What's your comment?
Okay, these are my comments.
Let's
Okay,
go.
you don't have to respond. But a lot of the public's listening, and I hope they really come in next time and help, because I don't like being up here alone. It's not a pleasant experience.
I agree with you.
So, the reference to the meandering boardwalk, can you tell me where that's located?
The north end.
The north end?
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying this project is referencing the casino area and Fifth Avenue?
The set of amendments, there's several different projects listed in here.
What avenue? Casino? You just said casino.
There was one at the south end near the casino on
South
Asbury
end.
Ave.
Right?
There's one between 3rd and 4th
Third
on
and Fourth.
Kingsley. And there's the north end boardwalk project.
What, I mean, the meeting tonight for the recommendations of recommendations,
Correct.
the parcels that we're talking about are 4th and South.
Correct.
Why is the North Boardwalk even brought into this?
It's another amendment in the set of amendments.
Okay, I mean, when I get the 10-page document, I'll see that?
Sure.
Okay. So then maybe I'm not just the only person that seems to think this is like holding, if you want your boardwalk next year, you better let us do this. And I've seen it before here where someone says, if you don't let me put up the 20 condos with no parking, then I'll stop developing. And it's a pattern over and over. Everything gets approved. And the last thing I'll say, look, it's an opinion and it's nothing personal. I think there's too much conflict here. I mean, you got a council person, you got a city parking person, you have
Actually, just for your information, the requirements of a planning board in the state of New Jersey.
I'm not saying that you're doing anything illegal.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I noticed that you are very close with the planner, and when the planner seems to get in trouble, you make comments and say, smile, and then all of a sudden everything's okay. In other words, the planner's got to speak on her own.
I actually heard Michael respectfully disagree.
How many times?
At least once.
But nobody.
But he did it respectfully.
And
so
nobody,
that's
what does that mean?
I mean, as in he said, I respectfully disagree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're not referencing that I'm not respectful. No, you wouldn't do that. But I thought when you made the statement that I was thinking that this sounds like holding, because everybody wants that boardwalk. We're like salivating for it, right? And now here it is. It seems like, okay, well, if this doesn't get approved or recommended, then no boardwalk. So people are like, you know, it's not like the pool thing. Everybody's here. I don't think anyone knows about this, that there's anything. As a matter of fact, I called one of the most vocal people at the meetings here, and I said, I think there may be something about the North End. They said, no, there isn't. It's about Fourth, it's about down south. And I said, you better come. They said, you're going to see, it's nothing to do. And what comes up? Meandering boardwalk. And I thought that was out of the picture. I was told that when they agreed to put the boardwalk back, there was no meandering.
So if you look in the screen, it is putting the boardwalk back the way it was. It's just adding a meandering boardwalk at the northern end of that.
So now we're back out on the beach again. Where does the meandering boardwalk go?
From the end of where the boardwalk used to be,
right,
to the lot, to the parking lot.
Goes around the front of the dunes, all the way to the fishing.
To the parking lot.
All right, so now we're right back. You know, I applaud you, and I always like to say when I'm at these meetings that the day I come to put an oil well on Main Street, I really hope everybody is here in place. And I'm going to use the same lawyers and the same engineers because I'll have an oil well on Main Street. Thank you.
You're welcome. Motion to close public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, do I have a motion?
Do we need to say what
Yeah.
the
So
recommendation
So
is?
I'll make the motion to recommend these amendments as will refer to us by council with this slight change of allowing for 6 stories in that area where the parking garage was supposed to
Parking
be.
garage is supposed to be, so instead of the 2 that we're considering that 6 should be, could be there if they would like it to be there. That's the condition.
It's not mandatory.
It's not mandatory?
It's a recommendation.
It's a recommendation.
Can-
Recommendation.
Can we ask that the image on the first page just be done a little bit more legibly? Like, can we just ask for some refining of the images 'Cause for posterity? I think
Right.
people should be able to read it.
As well as just putting in at least street names? That would be helpful? So that we're clear.
I will amend my motion to include that.
Okay. Second. I second the motion.
Okay.
Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton,
Yes.
Jim Henry,
Yes.
Michael Manzella,
Yes.
Jennifer Stouter,
Yes.
Trudy Seifert,
Yes.
Alexis Taylor,
May I ask Jack a question?
Yes.
Unlike site plan review, my vote on this does not preclude future waterfront redevelopment resolutions, like voting on that.
Not at all.
So I vote no.
Rick Lambert,
Yes.
Barbara Crizan.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, just as a matter of procedure, Michelle and Yvonne are gonna deliver this to the mayor and council, these comments to the mayor and council? Because there's no written resolution to be adopted by the board.
Yes.
So would you send me an email characterizing exactly what you're gonna send?
Yes. Yes. And Yvonne can make that recommendation as the council member who sits both on the planning board and the council.
Sure. This way I know when I do my resolution what the recommendations actually were that were transmitted to the council.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we have one more item. Sorry?
5 minutes?
Can we just take 5 minutes, please?
Motion to
Motion to take 5 minutes?
recess.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
9:05 PM. Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton.
Here.
Jim Henry.
Here.
Michael Manzella.
Here.
Jennifer Sauter.
Here.
Trudy Seifert.
Here.
Alexis Taylor.
Here.
Rick Lambert.
Here.
Barbara Krizak.
Here. Just before we begin, I'd like just to take care of one other thing. We have one more resolution to approve or to vote upon, and I'd like to put that through here so that we could just, it's like a 2-second thing. Jack?
Yeah, glasses on. The extension for 1105 Main Street, we missed last month's meeting, or the beginning of the month's meeting, and Irene presented it to you in the packages.
Yes.
So, Irene, if you want to see who's eligible.
Jim Henry and Jennifer Sauter are not eligible.
Okay.
Everyone else is. Can we get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton.
Yes.
Michael Manzella.
Yes.
Trudy Seifert.
Yes.
Alexis Taylor.
Yes.
Rick Lambert.
Yes.
Barbara Krizak.
Yes.
Approved.
Okay. Let's go. We have Regional Development Group, LLC.
On both, is it possible to get on both screens?
Oh, yeah,
I reviewed the notices and affidavits and the documentation submitted in connection with this, and they're in proper form, we're in jurisdiction to proceed.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair and ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Kevin Kennedy. I'm an attorney with an office in Red Bank, and I'm very pleased and honored and excited to be before you tonight with respect to this application dealing with 213-215 First Avenue. It's block 3901, lot 11. At the heart of this application is my client's request to effectuate the following. A demolition of an abandoned, boarded-up apartment building, which certainly looks like it is past its prime, and construction of a brand-new building containing 24 residential condominium units. As you're aware, the property is located in the city's waterfront redevelopment area, and as such, we are subject to a number of waterfront development regulations. Additionally, as was sort of referenced in the last presentation, we are as I understand it, the maiden venture under the city's recently amended redevelopment plan amendments, whereby some redevelopment projects can conditionally be transferred from the master developer to a subsequent developer on a lot-by-lot basis. This is our role tonight, as we are officially here as a designated subsequent developer. As part of the city's subsequent developer process, we have already successfully satisfied some preliminary and procedural steps to get to this point tonight. Clearly, appearing before you is a very big and very important hurdle for this project, and we are glad to be here. And by way of very, very brief review, I want to take 1 minute just to advise as to some of the procedural and preliminary steps we've already taken. I initially was going to take a 5-minute speech, but since I heard Michelle Alonso just in the last presentation give you a synopsis of those events, I'm going to cut it down to 1 minute. So essentially, as indicated, the city adopted a very elaborate and procedurally detailed process whereby a subsequent developer can receive permission to develop an individual lot. The city adopted that ordinance, and the master waterfront developer or agents thereof officially consented or otherwise conditionally or preliminary approved our ability to submit and process and pursue the approval for this project. The applicant's representatives submitted a subsequent developer application. They filled out applications and fees, and the application was ultimately cleared to go to the next level. The applicant's representatives thereafter appeared before a technical review committee, which Ms. Alonso earlier referenced. And we met with a large TRC group. There was a significant amount of individuals, lawyers, engineers, planners, architects, board members, municipal officials, and the like. I think we had a really good exchange and positive exchange with the TRC. We conceptually explained our project, we answered some questions, we considered other suggestions, and we even made some modifications, which I think were some really good beneficial modifications based upon that TRC meeting. Thereafter, the applicant's development team preliminarily appeared before the City Council. I believe it was at a workshop meeting, and we basically explained the project, displayed some of our renderings. Thereafter, with the city's unofficial consent, we then proceeded to the next phase. We've had a number of meetings with the city's redevelopment professionals and the master developers professionals, and we have had a significant amount of phone calls with the attorneys for the city's redevelopment team and the master redevelopers legal team and the like. As is always the case with any newly created or newly formed process, there were a couple of kinks and issues that we had to address, and with the good faith cooperation and consent of the city and master waterfront developer, I believe all those issues were addressed. And tonight we are keeping the process and the procedure moving forward. In any event, after a lot of hard work and cooperation from all involved, the city ultimately designated Regional Development Group, the applicant, as the subsequent developer for this particular property. That designation as subsequent developer is essentially our ticket to be able to submit a planning board application and appear before you tonight. Though there has been a lot of discussions on the matter and some of the legal issues, the site plan aspects of the project are all left to you for your review and approval. Tonight, like any other site plan application, it is my hope that I will our team will present details to you regarding the overall vision of the project, landscaping details, architectural details, engineering details, and the like. Our proposal is overwhelmingly consistent with the vision of the waterfront redevelopment plan as amended, and I believe it's overwhelmingly consistent with the architectural standards referenced in the redevelopment plan and amendments thereto. Throughout this hearing tonight, we will discuss those few deviations we're proposing, those few architectural deviations we are proposing, and we will discuss why we are proposing those deviations and why we believe those deviations are minor and can be approved without causing problems. Madam Chair, my preliminary agenda, or more appropriately, my anticipated agenda tonight, will include having testimony from Fuller H. Brooks. You probably know him as Tripp. He's seated to my right. He's a principal of the applicant. He's got significant experience history in this city, and he's got a wonderful vision for this project, and I think he's going to be our best cheerleader to tell you and hopefully convey some of that enthusiasm. We have Luke Radowski, who is an engineer with our development team. I would like to have him sworn when he comes up. I don't know if he'll have any testimony, but he might help Mr. Brooks. We have Dan Crusoe, our engineer, Joseph Malillo, our certified landscape architect, and Dan Conadori, our architect. Madam Chair, with your consent, I'd like to call my first witness, Fuller H. Brooks. We know him as Tripp, but I guess we should have Tripp sworn in and Luke Radowski sworn in if that's acceptable to you all.
Absolutely.
Please
Okay.
raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give during these proceedings will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name for the record.
Fuller H. Brooks is my legal name, and I go by Tripp Brooks. You're welcome.
All right, and Tripp, just for the record, you're affiliated with this application, you're familiar with the project, and you're familiar with the site, correct?
Yes.
And I know you have spent years developing this process and living this process, and I want you to convey that. Why don't I just, now that I've built that all up, put on hold, I'll just swear in Luke, so we can have him if he needs to add anything. Luke, if you could just come up forward and state your name for the record.
Luke Radowski,
Can you spell your last name, sir?
Rudowsky.
Thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give during these proceedings will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and just for the record, you're a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey,
Yes.
and you're employed by?
I work with Tripp as the project manager.
Okay, thank you, and we can get more information on that later on. So Tripp, why don't you explain your general vision for this project and explain some of the more apparent details?
Sure. So, first of all, I've been here, I moved to Asbury in 1999, and I've been a resident here and developer in the town since that time. And this is a property that I live on the west side of town, but this is on the east side. It's located on First Avenue. It's 215 First Avenue. It's across from the senior housing, and it's just off of Kingsley. The lot is about 21,000 square feet, so when they ultimately did the lot-by-lot development, we were able to proceed because it was a 15,000 square foot threshold, and we had more than that. I've been involved in this property since 2015. That's when we first bought the property with the hope that one day we would be able to develop it. And so we waited until the zoning was redone in June of this past year, well, a year ago, June, and we began the process. So part of it was filling out the application. I think it was about 87-page application that we did as a subsequent developer. And I'm proud actually to be the first subsequent master developer. It was a process to go through, but with the sort of good faith of wanting to do something, good on this property, and also for the community, I wanted to make sure that we stuck it out and we stayed the course to get this done. So I've used our professionals to come up with a plan, and we've been through the process. The vision for this really is as a residential building. It's close to the beach, and we hope to take advantage of the location of that to in our architecture and our proximity to have it be a successful project. Part of the redevelopment application is a full pro forma of how we hope to do this, and we are really just waiting on this approval now to effectuate our construction, financing, and get it going. We do have to take the building down. It stands right now, but it needs to be taken down to the ground. It's a wood structure, and it has a lot of damage on the inside from storm and being left unattended. That's really it. I've lived here a long time. This is a property that I've owned for almost 4.5 years now, and I'm excited to be here and to introduce the project and go from there. So.
And just for the record, what we're looking at the screen, did we hand out a hard copy set of this? All right, so what should we just mark this as? We'll mark as A1, which is just what we would describe this as trip.
There was a single document, I think it was the landscape, that wasn't in your original package, which is why we did this subsequent package so that you would have it. That's the reason why it was done.
Okay. Madam Chair, any questions for Mr. Brooks?
No.
Okay, so we're going to go through this. I'm going to do the first couple slides, and then I'm going to introduce our civil engineer, and then we'll go from civil to landscape, and then we'll have our architect speak as well. So this is the location. Everybody sort of knows it. One of the very early conversations we had was about the existing building location and the future building location. There are some street changes that come with the waterfront redevelopment plan, but what we wanted to do is ensure that the homes to our west would not be affected by our building. So we took the existing footprint, and I'm going to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I believe that I'm correct, that we moved the building back a foot from its existing location, correct? Yeah. So we wanted to ensure that, listen, buildings have to be set in their right location, they'll be pinned, but we did that, and although this is not a detailed to the foot, what you get with this image, hopefully, is that we really took into consideration the view corridor and that we did not want to step the building up. So we designed in the same footprint and extended to the north rather than to the south, where we would have any effect on the view corridor from the porches of those houses. That's actually from the building itself, not their porch location. And that's important to know, because if they go on the front porch, if they turn, the building's right there. It's not, so it's from the building location. Okay? So this is the building now, if you don't know it. I'm sorry, that's the building right now. It was a 32-unit apartment building when it was first, it had its green card. The last green card, I think, was from 2005 or 6. And at that time, there were still 32 residential units, and it's actually framed out as 32 residential units. It's a mix of 1s and 2s. It has some firewall in there, but mostly it's just it's a wood frame building. The roof, I think, came off during a storm. People were taken out of the building, and it was never permitted again to operate or to be rehabbed. So that was stopped. That's the building. It's next to that's 211 to our to the east, and that's the building as it sits today. That will be taken down, and this next shot is sort of, you're much closer to the building than this particular shot, but you'll get a sense of what we're trying to accomplish. So that's the building. The parking is behind it, and the architects will explain how all of that works. The thought that as a developer to develop this site was to create ground floor residential that was tied to the second floor residential. So it's a very small footprint on the ground floor, but when you walk by the building, it looks like you have a residential building to your side. As you look up, there's small little terrace areas that people can walk out on. The entrances are on the side, and the architect will explain it. But the idea was to not have a parking feel of like a parking deck, or you would be able to see the cars. That's a residential unit on the ground floor connected to the second floor unit, and it's not very deep. It's really just the front of that of the building. It's 4 stories with a pop-up mezzanine on the top floor, which is accessed from the units below. The screens that you see there are architectural feature. They slide across for, really it's some of it is for look, but it's also for privacy, and the architects will explain that. Other than that, it's a full glass window with terraces. Okay. That's a view looking to the east at the building. And Dan, the architect, will get into a little bit more of the aesthetics of it. And that's the back of the building. It has a pool in the back, and it has a deck area for grilling, and that's an amenity deck that's in the back, and that's over our parking deck. So that sits above the parking deck, or parking below it. And that's pretty much the look of the building and the idea behind how we came up with the front elevation and why it looks the way that it does. The site is currently the way that you saw it, the building, and then there's a parking area behind it. So everything that currently is, other than the front of the building, is covered with parking and or building currently. I think that covers the general sort of beginning vision of it, but obviously we have our civil engineers and architects and landscape architect also.
And Madam Chair, Tripp is not going anywhere. He'll be here, so board members have questions for Tripp? Should we bring up Dan Caruso?
Yep.
Thank you. I'll be right here.
Yeah, Madam Chairman?
Hold on one second.
If we're going to do this, before Tripp sits down, we should ask if there's any member of the public that have any questions for this testimony.
Anybody have any questions from the public? Of the presentation?
It's on the record.
No?
Okay.
Thanks.
Dan Caruso?
Yes, I do. CAR-USO.
All right, Dan, just for the record, you are testifying tonight in your capacity as a professional engineer?
Yes.
And can you just explain some of your licenses and certifications?
I have a bachelor's, master's of civil engineering, New Jersey Institute of Technology. I've been licensed in the state of New Jersey since 1991 and have been practicing engineering in the state basically since then.
And I believe you've been qualified before Asbury Park Planning and Zoning Boards before, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Madam Chair, I would like to have the witness recognized as a duly sworn qualified engineer.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may, Kevin, excuse me, since we're going to be speaking to the engineer, we may want to get both the planner and our engineer sworn in, because there's some discussion.
You swear that the testimony you're doing in these proceedings will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
That you and your affiliation with the city?
Michael Sullivan, Clark Caton Hints, Board Planner.
Jason Fisher, Board Engineer.
Okay, that having been said, Mr. Caruso, why don't you just explain the engineering design concept or engineering aspects of this application? And I know we have a review letter, so why don't you just take it from there if you can?
All right. Basically, the existing site is about 1,800 plus or 18,000 plus square foot of coverage. We're going to be proposing 90% of that, or 90% coverage, which puts us around 19,000 square foot, which is pretty much what you see on the print to the right of me is the site plan. The front portion is the building, and the parking is beneath it in the rear, at-grade parking. So it's basically a parking with a roof over it, so there's no parking exposed other than being under the roof. We have access to this parking facility from the right side of the building to the back, and then there's a two-way drive lane into the parking facility for our, we're proposing 41 car stalls. 13 of the car stalls are individual stalls at the front right along the back of the building. And then the remaining 28 car stalls are a stacked type situation where 14 of them are in a row, two in line with each. Basically, that's it with the parking.
How many in total?
41,
Thank you.
where 36 are required. Basically, I guess we could go through the report. Most of them are just plan cleanup type comments.
Let's identify the report. Dated,
The
inside
report
dated September 16, 2019.
Yes. I guess I'll just quickly go through the
Madam
items.
Chair, let me just interrupt. Subject to the pleasure of the board and its professionals, we can go through point by point, or we can just hit the main issues and say what we agreed to as a condition of the approval, and you can point out if there's any problems or things that you need to disagree with or exceptions.
It would be point by point.
Point by point, okay.
I guess we'll start right with the completeness review. Number one, plan revise the graphic written scale. We have no objections to providing that. Partway dimension width in front of the street shown on, actually we showed he had a comment that we needed to show some dimension widths. We do show that on sheet 3 of 11. If there's additional information, we'll provide it for him. Existing manhole, sewer lines, existing street in front is also shown on the sheet 3 of 11. The engineer had requested that we pick up some additional grade shots, first floor elevations, basement floor elevations of the adjoining neighbor. Number 4, yes. I mean,
Yeah, I need you to identify.
we really, if it's necessary, we'll try to get permission from the owner to obtain that information. Number 5 is an architectural. Number 6, taking center line profile of the street. He was requesting that we provide profile of the street, and we asked for a waiver that's not necessary in this project, if it's okay with the board engineer.
Is that all right, Jason?
Yeah, that's fine.
We're not asking for any phasing in this project that I'm aware of. And that, number 8, that's a operational description. I assume that would be
We'll have Mr. Brooks testify if there's any
Testify that.
information on that.
under the zoning review. Again, the landscape buffer, the landscape architectural address.
I'm sorry, that's number 9?
Or number 9, yes.
Okay.
Number 10, proposed impervious coverage will be reduced to meet the requirements of the acceptable level of the intensity. Our plan showed 90.9% coverage, and we'll be able to reduce that down to 90 so that we meet that regulation. That was it on zoning review. Development review, number 11. We have prepared the access easements and will submit them to the board engineer for review. Number 12, regarding the existing retaining wall. 12A, additional topographic information may be needed. We'll provide that information. B, C, and D really would pertain to the structural portion of the retaining wall. So we have a structural, somebody do structural for that, or?
So what are we doing with B, C, and D?
We will have a retaining wall engineering specialist to address those issues later on.
Okay.
Number 13, contour missing in a parking area. We'll upgrade the plans accordingly with anything missing. Number
13.
I think you skipped 12D.
Well, B, C, and D are relative to the structural.
Oh, I'm sorry, B through D. All right, good. Thank you.
Number 13, plans will be revised to show the missing contours in the parking lot. Number 14, I guess refers to the trash enclosure, which would be architectural.
How about refuse? How will that be handled on site?
I believe everything is going through the building. Correct.
Trip.
Question. I'm sorry, Dan, the architect will answer that, but it's a refuse chute, which will be taken.
Thank you.
In cans? We'll wait for, yeah, okay, no problem.
Sorry.
We'll wait.
Okay, number 15, the comment was, doesn't appear to be any signage. We're not proposing any signage. Number 16, owner signature would be Tripp. Building art aesthetics would be architectural. That's number 17. Number 18 would be lighting. Landscape architect will respond. Number 19, utility capacity. I believe Tripp is going to contact or get letters of capacity from the utility companies. Number 20, the plans will be revised to include the required payment details. 21 refers to the sidewalk and curbing. Our proposal is to actually replace all the existing sidewalk and curbing in the front, so all that'll be will be new. Number 22, we have submitted to the Freehold Soil Conservation District and will forward the approval letters to the board engineer. 23, side slope stormwater. It's just details that the engineer would like on the plan regarding the storm piping.
And we can put those items on the plan?
Yes. Number 24 refers to resident storage. I assume the architect will respond, and recyclable materials, the architect will respond. Number 26, we note that there are no loading spaces as part of this development. Based on the use of the building, the unloading, loading would be typically done within the car stalls provided to the units. And if there is any major, I guess, unloading would have to be done out at the street, right in front of the facility. what was I here? Okay, next will be considerations, number 27. This testimony provided regarding compliance with the CAFRA permit. It's my understanding the entire development area had been issued a CAFRA permit. We'll obtain a compliance letter if required. Number 28, utilities available. I believe Trip will get a letter that all utilities are available from the utility company. Number 29, ground level lighting. The landscape architect will respond. Number 30 is per city resolution. Number 30A is dealing with the landscape. So the landscape architect will testify. Number B, the rear parking area is under the roof. There will be no storm or other runoff that needed to be captured. The whole entire parking lot is under, so we're not providing any kind of inlets within that parking facility because it's completely roofed. So there would be no need for, we feel to be no need for any type of stormwater collection system for the parking area that's under the roof.
Actually, the concern was that there would be, in the winter, that there would be, once things melted, there would be ice on the driveway. That was the concern at the TRC.
Well, we're providing an inlet in the driveway portion of the, the access drive. We have an inlet down at the lower end of the project.
So there won't be any, well, we can go over it when the time comes, but I'm concerned about that one.
Okay.
Okay?
Where was that? Number C. Let's see, 30C, stormwater capture, including the seasonal high water table. We will provide the, I think I got, sorry about that, jumped the number here. Number 30C is regarding the architect's response. D is landscape will respond. E, the line striping in the road, new curbing configuration by the driveway be reviewed by the transportation. That's just a comment that the transportation planner will comment. Number F, access easement deeds descriptions. They'll be forwarded to the board engineer for review.
Madam Chair, if I can jump in on that, that references a shared driveway easement with the adjacent Lot 10. We have negotiated a driveway easement, a shared driveway easement. We don't have it inked yet. We have some lawyers and title companies and lenders that we have to go through, but we negotiated in that concept. So what I would respectfully suggest that if everything else is in order, you would approve the application subject to us providing that shared driveway
Right,
easement.
it would be a condition.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
30G, again, refers to the masonry walls around the project and the height of the existing walls, so our structural engineer will respond. And number 30H, again, landscape architectural engineering plans, there might have been some slight discrepancies between the three different plans, so we'll make sure that everything is in conformance with each other. So we move over to 31, stormwater management. 31A, the proposed infiltration pipe is located less than 10 feet to adjacent lot 10, and proposed building recommend that the pipe be located in the east-west direction in the proposed parking lot under the roof. That's what he's recommending. We don't have a problem with relocating it in that area, and I'll work with the engineer on the specifics. B is a comment to provide inlet filters, which we will do. C, stormwater, seasonal high groundwater elevations. Again, just information on the design of the system regarding the high water season. High water groundwater table will provide that information. And D refers to details of the infiltrators and seasonal high. So just plan detail corrections and additions that we need to make. So we'll be willing to do that. E, also boring locations. Actually, the soil boring location that will be, or where we're going to be locating the new infiltration system, there actually is a soil boring. So that comment was to have one near where we were proposing it, but there is one where we're going to be relocating it. So we should be good on that. Plan shall be revised to indicate material type of stormwater conduits. So we'll update the plan to show all that information. 31G, conduit capacity calculations will be provided. 31H, he's indicating that we revised to design the system for, well, at least provide existing information for the 210 and 100-year storm. The site is, we're really only increasing the amount of impervious coverage, about 435 square feet from the existing condition. So it really wouldn't fall, be classified as a major site plan where normally you would be required to have 2 10 and 25-year storm. So we feel that, I'm not sure it's necessary to go as high as a 100-year storm with this particular project, but I could work with the engineer on.
Just to provide the calculations.
Okay. So we're willing to provide that. 31I, got existing and proposed drainage maps. We'll basically clarify them and show the information requested. 31J, elevation of proposed water surface elevation. So again, all this is little details for our stormwater design, additional information on the details. We don't have a problem in showing that information. Again, K, inverts for the different stormwater pipes we'll provide. And 31L, again, more information in the drainage report that he asked for. We don't have an issue with providing that. And then the documentation that the infiltration system where we finally locate it won't have any impact on the foundations that we're proposing or adjoining properties. And 31N, we'll put together a stormwater operations and maintenance manual. Moving along, 32 refers to sanitary sewer laterals, additional information that they'd like to see, inverts and slopes of the existing system we're tying into, and provide some additional cleanouts where needed. Number 33. Again, this one refers to the water service system. Again, we'll provide any information, pipe sizes, and any additional information, and a tapping detail on how we're going to connect our system to the main, and also a tapping detail for a proposed fire service connection. Number 34, note shall be added to the plan that all existing utilities are properly capped during demolition, so we'll add that note. 35, testimony regarding the adequacy of the existing proposed ADA accessibility. We'll provide additional grade shots throughout the site in the ADA zone of travel and assure that they meet the requirements. 36 is regarding landscaping, so the landscape architect will address number 36. Number 37, the applicant shall protest regarding design waiver requests for construction materials, that's architectural. Number 37, the construction materials of the building. Number 38 will be a structural engineering review, so the structural engineer will handle that. 39, sewer connection fees. Tripp will take care of the sewer connection fees. And I think we're just about there, number 40. As far as number 40 refers to access for emergency vehicles, basically a fire truck would not be able to go down the access lane and turn into our parking facility, nor I don't think they would want to get that close to the building. So they'll have to access for fire protection from the from the front of the building. A smaller ambulance or something could possibly get in there, but for the most part, emergency access will be from the front of the building. And and the last is other approvals, Monmouth County, Freehold, Monmouth County Planning Board, Freehold, we have all of them, and we'll submit the approval letters to the board engineer, and the other engine DOT, DEP, safe drinking, and the CAFRA will obtain whatever required letters are necessary.
So obviously, if the application is approved, we, as a condition, would obtain any and all necessary outside approvals.
Yes.
And then is it safe to say first of all, we want to thank Jason and Insight Engineering, that was very thorough and very comprehensive review memorandum. Is it safe to say that unless otherwise indicated from you during your testimony, you can address those engineering concerns and comments to the reasonable satisfaction of the board engineer?
Yes. I guess we can move over to the planner's report.
Are there any engineering items in the planner's report?
I think it's only a couple. Let's see here. 2.6 site design exceptions. Off-street parking. His comment refers to, I guess, the tandem or stacked parking. We have 13 car stalls along the back side of the building, and then the remaining 28 broken up into 2 rows of 14 are actually stacked. So you'd have to back one car out to get the other one out. And basically that's how we obtain our 41 cars total. So that would be number 2.6A comment regarding the stacked parking.
Let me just clarify exactly what that says. What it says is that you need a de minimis exception from the RSI. That's what it says.
Okay.
And we acknowledge that, thank you.
Again, this would pertain to 2.6B, the minimum width of drive aisle. The standard is 24 feet, two-way parallel parking, or perpendicular parking. And in this proposal, we're able to provide 21. So it's 3 feet less, but we feel that that the way the building's going to be used with individuals, same individuals, that we don't feel that's going to be an issue for them to utilize that parking aisle. Is that okay on?
I defer to the people who know geometry better than I do. There's an exception required.
And curbing. See, curbing should be provided at least 1 foot from the face of the east side of the curb, extending from the steps to the southwest corner of the building to the first parking stall at the rear of the building and around the base of the stairs.
Just to kind of help you out there, we're concerned about, the potential damage to some of these structures from the cars. You have a tight situation, and curbing is required pursuant to the waterfront redevelopment. So we thought curbing would be a way to help that.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get into it.
Is that comment meant to say curbing instead of curb stops? Is that what you're?
It could be anything. It could be something, but curbing's required, so we're suggesting that curbing might be the solution. There may be other solutions too.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, we're okay with providing that on that in that area.
The other part of that's a very long comment. I apologize for that. Is the overall height. We get down another 9 feet, but it looks like you may have service vehicles that may have to get in there. If that's not the case, then 9 feet's not a problem for structured parking.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are going to have some sort of a taller vehicle go in there, you may have an issue that we think you may have an issue. So we're raising it.
I guess next is the site plan, number 3.0. It jumps to 3.1. Again, there are a number of discrepancies between the footprint on the architecture and the site plan, so we will correct those discrepancies. between the two plans.
Just to be clear, we may have additional comments once
Yes.
they're resolved,
Yes.
just I don't want to not say that.
Number 3.2, grading. I guess from what I'm reading, you're recommending that the retaining wall on the left side of the building be removed and graded.
So, what, in looking at the site, it would seem to us that there could be some resolution. If there wasn't some programmatic or site-based rationale, I know you have a walkway that you're planning on the west side of the building.
Right.
But if that wasn't necessary for some reason, that there could be a more gradual resolution of the grading there without having a big wall that might seem more harmonious with the adjacent property. Raising it as an issue, we think there's probably a solution without designing it here. Whether you'd be willing to explore that, we'd recommend that you do.
Because we can look into it, but we'll work with the, design criteria of the building and the walkway and make sure that they work together. And off-street parking layout. I guess the column portion would be addressed by the architect, structural engineer. We weren't sure where you were referring to on 33B, recommending pavement striping around the base of the stairs towards the travelway of the building. So I'm not sure there is a real specific walkway. I mean, everybody's going to their individual car or heading to the stairs, so.
If there was maybe some indicator on the ground that the stairs are there to give people some sort of safe haven if cars are moving around or something, that's what we're getting at.
So more of just a striping in the specific vicinity
Right.
of the stairs, so which no problem on that end. And the streetscape planting, I think everything else is.
I have a question about the stairs. I don't know if I should ask you or the architect, but so in relation to the property to the east, is there a concern that someone could just drive into the stairs there? I mean, should there be a bollard or something? Is there driveway?
I don't know how
Where is it?
Just have to ask the architect on that.
Okay, okay,
I'm
okay.
not totally
No problem.
familiar with the stair portion of the building, but.
No problem.
If we had to.
So we'll come back to that
let
if you
the
don't.
Yeah.
architect address that issue. And I believe that's it on the site plan of the planner, unless I've missed something that I could
I
answer.
think the remaining comments read, there was one about lot configuration with that little piece that's on the west side. I don't know who can answer that.
I think I can answer.
And then the rest of the lighting and planting design.
Yeah, that would be a landscape, but yes.
Trip Monday.
Yeah, just that piece that's being mentioned, excuse me for pointing, but it's a little piece that's over here on the western side of the building. It's currently fenced off. The owner it just ended up being this weird little piece that's over here. So the question is whether or not to work something out with that property owner. Be happy to talk to them about it. I'm just not sure if, it's actually part of the walkway. Maybe we put some kind of greenery there or something, I don't know. But what I would rather not get involved in is something that requires me to have some negotiated deal with them to do something on that property that would hold the project up. That's my only request.
Yeah, the reason we bring it up is because it feels like it's extraneous.
Yes.
And the simplest thing, putting myself in your shoes, I would just lop it off and say, here you go, unless you need it for something.
No, if it was as simple as that, I would say, I would agree with you. But having just gone through an easement over here and how long that took to negotiate, and we're still dealing with title companies, that I don't want to run into this now, this late in the game, if I don't have to. So that was my request, that we own it now. If it becomes an issue, and I will talk to the person and also refer back to Kevin about the logistics of accomplishing that. I get it, I know what you're talking about, I know exactly where it is, and it's that fenced-in area currently.
So So based on that, what you would be proposing is that right now you've got a new wall proposed to replace the old wall, correct?
Yes, that wall there is 3 feet, 2.5 or 3 feet high.
And that area is high, at the
That-
same
that's-
level as the backyard?
That's higher, and then it's fenced above that.
And then it's fenced above that from the property to the
That's
west?
right.
Just raising an issue.
Thank you.
Dan, do you have any more engineering testimony direct?
Not if there, unless there's
Madam
question
Chair,
or
unless the
comment.
board members have questions?
Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I have one that, I didn't catch your testimony. I think it was in the Insight report in reference to the issue about the CAFRA permit. You're going to provide a letter, you say? Is that what?
Yeah, we'll provide whatever,
I didn't hear what you said. That's my problem.
yeah, we'll obtain the compliance letter that we need the original approvals that were granted.
And the, as I look at the plans, it appears that there's a 10-foot height, or that the deck, the pool deck is 10 foot, at the bottom of the pool deck is 10 foot above the parking area?
I believe so, yes.
Sorry?
I think that would be in the architectural plans.
Oh,
so
okay.
He may be able to
If you
explain
wouldn't mind
that.
holding that question, the architect comes up and we'll make sure he answers it.
Anybody else have any questions from the board? Anyone? Any questions from our professionals?
Yes, I have one more, Dan. So around the perimeter of the property, there's a new retaining wall that's proposed.
Yes.
And it's partially keystone, the dry block system, is partially sheet piles. Correct?
I believe so. Designed by others on that end of it.
Yeah. The only reason I bring it up, it's tight back there. This goes to the stormwater also. It's tight for space, there's adjacent buildings nearby and all that kind of stuff. And when I see sheet piles, I think of vibratory insulation and vibrations and adjacent structures. Is there any thought put forth to that, on how that'll be? We got something for that? Okay. We've got something for that.
All right, we're hitting the 10 o'clock hour. So one more thing I'd like to say is that does the public have any questions about this, about the testimony? No questions? Okay. All right, we're going to have to carry this. We need a date.
Madam Chair, before we hit the next date, can I just have Mr. Brooks make one last comment?
Sure.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. So I understand about sort of hard stop at 10 o'clock. I was really sort of sitting on the edge of my seat over there waiting to see if we were going to be able to get this in. You will excuse my sort of passion about this and waiting 13 months, 14 months since I got approval to even have lot by lot to get in front of you. So I want to see whatever we can do, whatever the mechanism is, whether it's another meeting that we pay professionals to come if you're willing to do that, or whenever the next meeting is. I also know there's big planning issues that are coming up, and I just don't want to get buried.
No. What we would do is that you have a few options. We say, okay, whatever the next meeting that I believe that we have an opening is, I thought it was the 21st, Amina?
Yeah, we can squeeze it into.
We could put it into the 21st and you'd be the first presenter,
Okay.
okay? The other option that you have is to pay for a special meeting if we can get everyone here to attend that meeting. So those are the two options. So between now and the 21st, if we could have another meeting and you say, oh, I'll pay for that meeting, then
That would be
could
great.
happen.
That's a great option, so I thank you for that. I appreciate being on the 21st.
Okay.
I was concerned about being pushed to
No,
to
we,
the...
just to be clear,
Okay.
that we are making sure that no one is held up, as a result of the other things that are going on. We're giving everyone
Thank
a
you
fair
so
turn.
much. Appreciate that.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to
Okay.
express, so I
Yes,
appreciate it.
You
Thank
will
you.
not be pushed aside.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
And just to, if there's an ability to move things along, there may be things, I know there's things that you're going to be asking for exceptions for. And there's going to be things that you are going to try to comply with. I mean, particularly with the landscape architectural aspects of this and the lighting aspects of that.
Yes.
If they're, I mean, we're a month away.
Mhm.
That's time to have a meeting offline with your professionals and discuss that and see if they can get the resolution.
No, I think.
That's helpful.
Yeah, no, and I think my concern was I was going to hear Thanksgiving. Like, I was, and that was really going to be taking me off the rails, but I'm fine with the next meeting of the 21st. I
Okay.
think that based on the engineering reports from inside in your report, it gives us time to not come in and say, we'll address that, we'll actually address it.
We would
And
prefer
bring it
everything
back
to
in.
be addressed as much as you possibly can. It'll quicken things up.
I got it.
And just to, I just checked I'm not going to be available on the 21st, so Donna's going to be here for me, so I'd like
Okay.
to, you know.
Yeah, well, happy
I'd like to
to
help that along. as
have
much as I can before
Thank
that
Joe
deadline.
Malone make that happen. So,
All right.
thank you very much for your
All
time.
right, can I get a motion to carry this application to October 21st? No further notice?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, on behalf of the client, I consent to extend the time frame within which you have to act, and I appreciate the patience. I know this was a long night, and I wrote down all the questions that you wanted for our various witnesses. We will not forget, and we'll see you October 21st. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
again.
Don't
All
we need to
right,
vote on that? Don't we need to vote on that?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Aye.